Welcome into the Steelers Talk live show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you to everybody that is tuning in at the beginning of today's live program, and we are less than 24 hours away from the legal tampering period being open in the National Football League, where the Pittsburgh Steelers can negotiate with upcoming NFL free agents and come to terms with those players. We still do not have an answer at quarterback. We still do not have an answer at wide receiver too. Something tells me that by the end of this week, we will have answers to both of those positions, not to mention the plethora of other team needs that the Pittsburgh Steelers currently have on their roster. Welcome in to Steelers Talk Live. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today is our pre-free agency special where we are here to answer your questions. Okay, guys? So that's what we're going to be doing today. You guys can super chat. You guys can put in your hashtag Steelers questions in, and we will eventually be doing a mailbag here on the show. So make sure you guys get your questions on the show here. We'll get you up on screen. We'll talk about a bunch of different topics today, and we're going to try and get you guys ready for what's going to be a crazy next couple of days here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It might even be a crazy next couple of hours. I mean, just last year, the day before NFL free agency, we all remember what happened. DK Metcalf was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and right now there are certainly some big-name receivers that could be on the trade market that the Steelers could be considering as we speak here right now. So if any breaking news happens, we will be live here to discuss it, but if not, we will just be answering your questions, talking about the various team needs that the Steelers have, talk about the quarterback position, the wide receiver situation, talk about anything else that you guys want to know about here as we get ready for our live free agency coverage over the next several days. By the way, we will be going live at 11 a.m. tomorrow, okay? So 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow is when we'll be live, an hour before the legal tampering period opens at noon Eastern tomorrow afternoon. So make sure you guys mark your calendars. Make sure you guys show up for our first free agency live show of the week. And we'll be live for Tuesday. We'll be live for Wednesday as well. And then if we still have certain questions, namely the quarterback position that haven't been filled by Wednesday, we'll probably go live Thursday and maybe even Friday as well. So it's going to be a really fun week of Steelers content for you guys here this week. And I want to see who the real ones are down there in the chat. We already got 150 people in this chat room already. So if you've liked the stream, we've got 25 people that have clicked that thumbs up icon. The real ones know that clicking that thumbs up icon helps the show tremendously, guys. So type those me's if you want a shout out. We got Calvin. We've got Omar, Con Artist. We've got James Knight. Michael, Irene. We've got my lovely fiance, Cassie Voth, in the chat. We've got Tommy Painter. We got DJ KJ. We got J5. We've got Fluffy in the chat. Good to see you, Fluffy. We've got Weekend. We got DeBoss. We've got Caden. We've got Michael. Super Don't Demonetize Me Logan. We've got Pittsburgh Primo, or Primo, however you say that. We've got Chase Jackson. We've got Lazar. We got Jay Terrell. We got Michael. We've got Robert Locken here. Good to see you, Robert. We got Gavin. We've got Josh. We've got Slim Toxic. We've got Gavin. Steelers Season Productions. We've got 913. Got Ronald, Steel Nut. Oh, my goodness, what a name that is, Mr. Ponzi. All right, we'll leave it there. But if you guys want to donate to the show today, I greatly appreciate it. $25 Venmo and PayPal donations. You guys can purchase a Steelers Talk hat today. That's going to be the special promotion that we run here on the show. Usually these hats are $50, guys, Venmo or PayPal. Today, and for today's show, we are going to be cutting that price in half. $25 Venmo and PayPal donations, and we'll make sure to get you a Steelers Talk hat. You can find me on Venmo at Jack-Sperry or at Captain Jackrabbit. You guys can send those $25 donations to Venmo or PayPal. Greatly appreciate your guys' support, and I'll make sure to get you a Steelers Talk hat if you put in that $25 donation. But we also have new merch here on the channel, so if you guys want to help support the show, you guys can go to chatsports.com/Steelers Talk to pick up your channel logo t-shirt. Also, St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner. If you guys want to join the Steel City Drinking Team, these limited edition Steelers Talk Steel City Drinking Team t-shirts are available on our website as well, chatsports.com/pitgreen. By the way, Ponzi is putting the links to these down there in the comments section if you guys want to make a purchase today. We also have Beers hats available for you guys if you want to pair your Steel City Drinking Team t-shirt with a Beers hat, just like the channel hat. It's $24.99 on our website, chatsports.com/beers. Greatly appreciate your guys' support. All right, man. So let's get into some topics here. Of course, when Super Chats come in, we'll answer that question immediately, okay? And whenever we get enough questions to fill out the mailbag, Ponzi's going to give me a thumbs up, and we're going to get into that mailbag when we can. But let's start here by talking about my perfect offseason plan and my offseason and my free agency wish list here where I think that there's a lot of great opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into this free agency where you've got quite a bit of cap space. You've got lots of team needs that you need to take care of, but you got 12 draft picks as well. You got to remember that. For me, on offense, the players that I would like to see the team bring back, especially Aaron Rodgers and Kenneth Gainwell, I'd love to see them add Romeo Doubs if they can't pull off a trade for a receiver. And then Darnell Mooney is somebody I'd like to add for a pretty decent price tag here. If he's anything over $10 million, I'm probably not bringing him in. But as like a wide receiver 3 or as a really high-end wide receiver 4, I really like Darnell Mooney. I'd like to bring back Isaac Seumalo, and I'd like to bring in Brock Hoffman, who has a connection to Mike McCarthy. He was a UDFA brought into Dallas during the 2022 season, of course, when McCarthy was still the head coach there in Big D. And then on defense, I'd like to bring in Kairos Tonga, the nose tackle that played for the New England Patriots last year. Daniel Equale, I'd like to bring him back on a team-friendly deal as our backup nose tackle. I would personally like to see Patrick Queen get released and save that $13.3 million, and we can bring in a guy like Leo Chanel, for example, who I think is a really good starting linebacker, and right now he's only projected to get like a $6 million per season contract. I think that's a lot more prudent and a lot more frugal than just keeping Patrick Queen at his current price point. And then I would I'd bring back James Pierre. I don't think it's going to cost all that much to bring Pierre back. And then also Brian Cook. I'd love to bring in Brian Cook. I think he's an awesome safety that I think would fit well here with this defense here in Pittsburgh. Now, in terms of the players that I would predict get signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say Aaron Rodgers, I think, is the betting favorite to be the starting quarterback of the Steelers next year. I do think Malik Willis and Kyler Murray and those options have entered the chat, and those are certainly possibilities. But I do still think that Aaron is the most likely option at the quarterback position as we stand here right now. Aaron Jones, if they miss out on Kenneth Gainwell, they don't want to pay $5 or $6 million per year to bring back Gainwell. I could see them bringing in Aaron Jones, who's very close with Aaron Rodgers. He'd still be a good running back too, in my opinion. I think Jaylen Warren is more than capable of being a true number one running back. Jones, you could get on the vet minimum, somebody that's a good receiving back. I wouldn't mind that at all. Then I do think the team will bring in Romeo Doubs. I think it might be pretty expensive, like $20 million per season, but that's around the going rate for a wide receiver too in the National Football League right now. I also think that they would bring in Jalen Tolbert as like a wide receiver 3 or 4 type. John Simpson as their new starting left guard. Brock Hoffman, who we discussed earlier. Dalvin Tomlinson as their new nose tackle. James Pierre as their CB2. And then Donovan Wilson and Jamal Adams as kind of like a safety duo being brought in, a veteran safety duo being brought in while I think the Steelers are probably going to draft a safety in the NFL draft this year. So with that, let's bring in our producer today. Mr. Ponzi is here. Ponzi, it's good to be with you here to start yet another week of content here on Steelers Talking. It's going to be a lot of live programming this week. It's just the start. But obviously the big question that is on everybody's mind in Steelers Nation is who the hell is going to be our starting quarterback next year, and we don't know that answer right now. And we've apparently the Steelers have given Aaron Rodgers every opportunity to lock himself in as this team's starting quarterback before the start of free agency tomorrow, and he's declined to take that opportunity. Still deciding whether or not he's going to play next year, and it seems like he wants to test free agency and see what's out there. The only other team that I see being out there that he would want to kind of look for is Minnesota. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see some Rodgers to Minnesota buzz here over the next 72 hours or so. But the big date to keep your eye on there is the new league year starts on Wednesday, March 11th. Yep. And that's when Kyler Murray becomes available. And right now there's a ton of Kyler Murray to Minnesota buzz. And I think that Minnesota will probably bring in either Kyler or Aaron Rodgers at this point. We'll see what they do. It seems like Kyler's their guy, but maybe Rodgers wants to kind of play the field a little bit, see if Minnesota's still available and wants him. And if not, he'll re-sign with the Steelers pretty quickly. If they are interested, maybe he goes to Minnesota.
If you would have asked me this question at the beginning of last week, I thought it was more like a 70-30 split. I thought, Rodgers was pretty confidently going to go back to the Steelers, but there was still that chance, he could test the market. But after this week, man, after it's kind of just dragged on, I don't really know. I feel like Rodgers could either come back to the Steelers, obviously, or maybe Minnesota is where he wants to go all along. And I think the Steelers have some options if that's the case. I think Malik Willis is probably the fan favorite, but I think
actually he's not. Really? You want to know who?
Will Howard.
Well, Will Howard's one. According to a poll, who's number 2? Trading for Mac Jones is the number 2 option according to Steelers fans, I believe.
Really, on our poll?
It was on Bet Online. Bet Online did a poll of Steelers fans, and 24%, pretty much a quarter of Steelers fans, want Mac Jones as the starting quarterback next year. Now, when it comes to Mac, he's going to be expensive. At least a second-round pick is what San Francisco wants for him. For me, that's too much. Mac Jones has really only had he played well last year, yes, but that was in the Kyle Shanahan offense. That just elevates quarterback talent with ease, right? And there's been a bunch of quarterbacks that have gone to play for Shanahan and have played their best football of their career for him and then go elsewhere and stink. I mean, Mac Jones, before he went to San Francisco last year, was seen as a mid-level backup quarterback, not even a good backup. Obviously, former first-round pick, but I don't know, man. He is an intelligent guy, and I think that he could handle Mike McCarthy's offense with all the responsibility that the quarterback has in this offense. He's got some decent size, can throw over the middle of the field. But I do question the arm strength with him, Ponzi. I think in the AFC North, you've got to be able to have a strong arm, cut through the conditions, cut through the wind and the snow and the rain, be able to grip a wet football. And that's probably my primary concern with Kyler Murray as well, to be fair. But with Kyler Murray, you don't have to give up a second-round pick, right? And you don't have to give him a brand-new contract if you trade for Mac Jones, right? You're pretty much committing to Mac Jones being your long-term answer at quarterback if you trade for him. And I just don't think I'm at the point where I'm really ready to commit to him long-term after just one decent season in San Francisco, in which it's a very small sample size. Now, you might be saying, but Jack, you say you'd be open to Malik Willis. Isn't that being a little bit hypocritical? Well, I don't think so, because you don't necessarily have to commit super long-term to Malik Willis if you bring him in. Listen, you bring him in for 2 years, $50 to $55 million, somewhere in that range is what he's expected to go for. I think you bring him in, you give him that number, you guarantee $30 to $35 million of that, just fully guarantee the first year that he's here. And then if you let him go next offseason, you only have a $5 or $10 million dead cap hit, and you're drafting your quarterback of the future in the 2027 NFL draft. And Malik Willis, if you watched him play last year, man, I know it was a super small sample size, but he looked like a top 10 NFL starting quarterback.
I mean, he played in Baltimore.
And he played he played in Green Bay.
Or in Green Bay.
Yeah, he played against Baltimore in Green Bay, but that's still that's still cold. It was a cold weather game late in the season, and he played abundantly well in that game. Showed off the legs, showed off the deep ball, showed off the improved footwork and mental processing. He ripped a seam shot, I think, on the second play of the game. I think his first drive was a deep ball to Romeo Doubs, right in the bucket down the sideline. Second play or third play, he hits a seam shot to, I think it was Christian Watson for a touchdown. He is a big play machine, or at least he was in the short stint. He was the starting quarterback of the Packers last year. And there's just not a whole lot of legitimate long-term options available to the Steelers this offseason. So my personal philosophy is bring back Aaron Rodgers would be my number one choice, just because he's got the chemistry with the guys in the locker room. The players want him back. He's still super cheap, not quite as cheap as Kyler, but I think Rodgers is better built to play in the AFC North. He's got the playoff experience you want. He still has really great arm talent. He's got the football intelligence to play in McCarthy's offense. To me, this makes a lot of sense to bring Aaron Rodgers back, but like Rodgers said himself this past week, it takes two to tango, right? It takes both sides to come to a deal, and it seems like Rodgers wants to see what's out there in free agency before recommitting to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Or perhaps, Ponzi, he wants to see what the Steelers do at wide receiver before he hitches his wagon to the black and gold again here in 2026.
I mean, I don't blame him for that at all. Omar Khan, consecutive off seasons, you could argue even 3 off seasons where, wide receiver 2 was an issue. They didn't fix it last season. They didn't fix it the season before. Wide receiver 2 was once again, an issue. And, I don't know if Omar Khan can really get away with not getting a quality wide receiver 2 in this free agency class. It's I think Romeo Doubs is there. He's a perfect fit. I think, you can get some depth in, Jalen Tolbert, a couple of guys, Darnell Mooney, like you mentioned. But, I think this is the offseason where Omar Khan has to get that guy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have serious concerns about his job security here. I don't know how you can get away with that again.
Yeah, he needs to get this right. We've been saying it all offseason long. Speaking of the wide receiver position, man, there's some very interesting names that could be traded. Not only just over the next several years, or not years, the next couple days. A.J. Brown is still out there. Now, I haven't heard the Steelers connected with him all that often in these reports. It's been mostly the Pats. But right now, it seems like the Eagles are looking for a first and a second and a player, a Quinnen Williams-esque package. Now, I don't think the Steelers are willing to give up their first-round pick. I think what they might be willing to do, and we talked about this last week, is give them a second-round pick this year, okay? We know that the Steelers are willing to, trade second-round picks for receivers. They did it just last year. And then you add a guy like Alex Highsmith to that deal. And listen, man, I love Highsmith too. But, something has to eventually give in that edge rusher room. You have too many good players in that group. And personally, if I were the Steelers, I would trade T.J. Watt. All right, I would. I think that's a smart move. I just don't think that's realistic. The Steelers have been abundantly clear that they feel like he's a one-helmet guy. They're going to do whatever it takes for him to be a Pittsburgh Steeler for life. Okay, so I agree with the people that are like, I don't want to trade Highsmith. I'd rather trade T.J. Watt. I agree with you. He's the oldest, least productive, and most expensive edge rusher in the room. So, personally, I would love an edge rusher duo of Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig. But Highsmith himself is getting older. He himself, has had multiple injuries over the last several years. And I think what the Steelers want to do is they want to extend Nick Herbig this offseason. And does it really make sense to extend him and then keep all 3 of these guys in the same defense? I don't know, because if you're going to do the 3-way starting rotation thing, all of them are going to see decreased snaps, and it's are they really worth the money if they're not getting full starting workloads? It's just a very difficult situation. So when I'm looking at from the Steelers' perspective here, I see a guy in A.J. Brown that can instantly help this team get to the next level, right? In my opinion, A.J. Brown is a do-it-all, pure alpha, number 1 wide receiver, okay? You pair that up with someone who I would consider like a 1B type of receiver in DK Metcalf, and you got one of the best wide receiver duos in football in terms of the diva-like behavior, quote-unquote, with A.J. I feel like if he gets the ball, and by the way, he's going to be in the building with one of his best friends in the world, DK Metcalf, his former college teammate, it feels to me like Rodgers would definitely get him the football, and I feel like he would love and enjoy playing here in Pittsburgh. Obviously, the Steelers and Eagles do have some connections. Andy Weidel comes over from the Philadelphia Eagles organization, so they've got those ties as well. They made the Kenny Pickett trade a couple years ago. So, this is what I would offer. If this isn't enough, I'm not upping that second-round pick to a first-round pick. This is the offer for me. If you want to throw in Roman Wilson, if the Eagles want him, fine. Have Roman Wilson.
Yeah.
By all means. But, right now, I don't think this is completely bonkers given what the Eagles want, what the Steelers situation is right now. Plain simply, if Alex Highsmith is on this team this year, he's probably getting traded next offseason because I think the Steelers are going to want to keep Nick Herbig for the long term. So that means it has to be either Watt or Highsmith that probably leaves this building. And I think the answer to that question would be Highsmith. So, if you're gonna get rid of him next offseason anyway, you might as well get a top 5 receiver in your building right now if you can by including him in this deal.
I really think A.J. Brown would go perfect. Obviously, they DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown work together at Ole Miss, but I think the hard part with this Eagles trade is DJ Moore went for a second, and that's gonna really drive the value up for the Eagles. They're going to argue that they deserve that first round pick, that second
Too
pick.
bad. This is my offer. I'm not giving up my first round pick.
And I think, if I was the Eagles GM, I would have to take, if I was Howie Roseman looking at this, I'm like, that's not a bad deal at all.
I think they have 2 edge rushers on their team right now. They are desperate for starting level edge rushers. And Highsmith, he's a win now player, and he fits perfectly in that Vic Fangio defense. This is something that I genuinely think the Eagles would be interested in. And I actually checked in with our Eagles host here at Chat Sports, Chase Sr., and he told me that he thinks this deal is interesting. He thinks that the Eagles, especially if the Patriots aren't, coming to the table and actually giving them an offer that they if they're not willing to offer that first and second round pick, this might be something that the Eagles consider, because Highsmith is a really good football player. He's under contract for 2 more years. He'd be an awesome value for them. He would be less than $20 million cap hits the next 2 years for them.
And one of the things that you got to consider when you talking about this deal, even if the Pats come up with that first round pick, it's 31. Are you going to find a caliber of player like Alex Smith at 31 in this draft class that you really like? If the Eagles can't say, hey, there's no one in this draft class that I would like at 31, is the caliber of Alex Highsmith, then take this deal.
Yeah.
The
Patriots' first round pick this year is
31.
It's essentially an early 2.
Yeah. So you're basically getting 2 2s, which is fine, but
this is a very similar deal. And you get a player that's ready to help you win right now.
Exactly. A proven player on a contract that you can afford, where they're already having cap space issues. This is something they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I feel like this is a good deal.
Yeah, and listen, man, it sounds like Brian Thomas Jr. is not getting traded. All right.
No.
There's been reports today saying that the Jags, they're not going to trade him. According to Nick Farabaugh, they wanted a first round pick at least in exchange for him, and the Steelers didn't want to do that. I agree with that decision from Omar Khan. I do not want to give up a first-round pick for somebody in Brian Thomas Jr. that had the drop issues that he had last year. Obviously, he's got the upside, but I think he was second in the league in drops last year to only Jerry Jeudy. So Brian Thomas Jr. had a drop issue last year. Giving up your first-round pick, which could be an awesome receiver in his own right, is just not something that I would be willing to do there. But with this particular deal, I think a lot of people's objection to it would be, the Steelers are already paying DK Metcalf. They can't afford to pay both A.J. Brown and Metcalf. Well, what people need to understand is that A.J. Brown's cap hits are actually not that crazy, especially if a team trades for him. His cap hit next year is less than $15 million against the cap for the Steelers if they trade for him. That is unbelievable for a guy of A.J. Brown's caliber to have a cap hit less than $15 million for next season. That might be less than it would be if you signed Romeo Doubs this year.
Yeah.
And A.J. Brown is a legit alpha number 1 wide receiver. Romeo Doubs is a solid wide receiver too. There's levels to this thing. And if you could add A.J. Brown to that number, and then he's also super affordable in 2027 as well. And then by the time we get to 2028 and 2029, we're going to be looking at a situation where the cap's going up by $20+ million every single season, 23.5 and 29.3, especially if Brown is playing at a high level into his 30s. We could be talking about one of the best value contracts in the National Football League here in Pittsburgh. And then, yes, you have to deal with the void money in 2030, which all comes crashing to a halt at $53.5 million. But, there's a bunch of different cap maneuvers that the Steelers could do to, alleviate some of that, spread it out over multiple years if they want to. They could extend him if he's still playing well. That's kind of a bridge that you can cross when you get there. But, if the Steelers are trying to make a case to Aaron Rodgers, we're ready to win now, we're a team that can compete for a Super Bowl right now with you as our quarterback, the best way to make that case is to get the best possible receiver to pair with Metcalf. And, A.J. Brown is that guy. So I'm not willing to overpay for him. There is a line that I'm not willing to cross in a trade for A.J. Brown. But, if Omar Khan pulls this off before free agency, it's going to be awesome, but I'm not going to say that I'm going to be completely, blindsided by it. I think it is a possibility.
I really think, that, like you said, that connection between the Eagles and the Steelers, I think, it's going to come down to one of these edge rushers. And honestly, if I'm, Omar Khan, I'm hey, maybe I throw in an additional 4th or a 5th. Like, if they really want it that bad.
Yeah, like we got 12 draft picks, right?
Yeah, like
if they want
I'm not going to feel bad trading 2 draft picks.
Hell, I'd even throw in one of our 4ths.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to feel bad throwing in a 2nd and 4th and Alex Highsmith for A.J. Brown, who's a top 5 wide receiver. You know, even if you want to argue he fell off last season, which is, you know, he did have a little bit of a statistical fallout, but, like, dude, he's still top 10.
He's still been one of the most productive wide receivers in football over the last several years with Ryan Tannehill and Jalen Hurts as his 2 quarterbacks.
No disrespect to Jalen Hurts, but, like, I don't know, man. I don't know if he really fits A.J. Brown's deep ball skill set.
Yeah. Another guy that apparently is on the market that interests me and intrigues me, Ponzi, is Jaden Reed from the Green Bay Packers. Reed is somebody that, you know, is very electric with the ball in his hands, good route runner, good deep threat, is kind of seen as a really high-end number 2 receiver in the league. The Packers are apparently open to listening to trade offers for him. So the thing about Reed is that he's expensive, both in terms of trade capital and in terms of the contract you're going to have to give him. Because he's only got 1 year left on his deal, so if you trade for him, you're going to be re-upping him. You're going to be giving him an extension. And, like, people that I've talked to think that he can get, like, $26, $27 million per season. And, like, you want to talk about the A.J. Brown thing, you can't afford 2 receivers with big contracts in this offense. Like, if that's your objection, then probably Jaden Reed is off the table as well, just because, like, you'd be paying DK Metcalf $30 million per season and Jaden Reed at like $25 to $27 or even $28 million per season, and that's a lot of money to be paying for your wide receiver duo. And you know, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, if we trade for Jaden Reed today, I'll be excited about it. He's a hell of a football player. But, like, it's just the cap thing makes me a little bit worried. And you can always manipulate the cap to, you know, offload money into the future. But is that really something the Steelers want to do? That's not usually something the Steelers like to do. So I don't know. You know, Jaden Reed is a fun player. I think it would cost probably like a 3rd-round pick. Like, I just got done talking with Trader Joey, who's also our Packers host, by the way. He's not only our Ravens host, he's our Packers host, and he told me, pick 99 and he's yours. Like, that's a pretty decent deal for, like, somebody that would be one of the better wide receiver 2s in football. It's just, you have to be okay paying your wide receiver group a lot of money.
I definitely think that's something they could do.
Yeah, they could.
Like, I think, you know, if we're talking about A.J. Brown...
It's possible because they're not paying the quarterback anything.
Exactly. And obviously, you know, as of now, they're not paying their quarterback. Who knows with Malik Willis? Like, I think, you know, the good thing about these Packers wide receivers, too, like Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, if you want Aaron Rodgers, I don't think Reed played with Rodgers.
I think he got there a year late.
Yeah.
Let me check real quick, but I'm pretty sure he got there after he left. I think he got drafted
because it was 2023 or 2.
Because Rodgers' final season was 22, he got drafted in 23. So he's never played with Rodgers. So he doesn't have that established chemistry. Also, like, I think Dobbs might be the better value.
I really do, too.
And you don't have to give up a draft pick to get him. Like, if you get Dobbs, you can, like, he's expected to go somewhere between $15 and $20 million. And he might get a little bit more than that because he's expected to get a pretty good market. Like, Romeo Doubs is one of the more popular receivers on the market. Like, San Francisco's going to want him. Apparently the Commanders are in on him. Like, there's a lot of teams that want Romeo Doubs. So you're going to have to win a bidding war if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers to get him. But, like, even then, I'm not sure if that bidding war gets as high as a Jaden Reed contract would get. And with Dobbs, I get somebody that actually has played with Aaron Rodgers. I get somebody that's bigger than he is. He doesn't have quite as much juice athletically, obviously, but he's an insanely good route runner. He fixed his drop issue last year in Green Bay. Like, he was a legitimate wide receiver 2 type in Green Bay last year, and he's cheaper than Jaden Reed. And I don't have to give up a draft pick for him. So, like, if I have to pick between one of these 2 former Packers, I think I'd rather go with Dobbs in free agency as opposed to trading for Jaden Reed. It's an interesting name, and Jaden's an awesome player. If we trade for him today, I'll be excited to watch him in a Steelers uniform, but I kind of feel like Romeo Doubs might be the better fit here.
Obviously, Rodgers was asking about him before the NFL season. I think, Dobbs is going to be a good fit. Obviously, you are a little concerned about the concussion history, but like Jaden Reed also had his own injury history too. So like either or, you're going to have to take a risk on the injury status, but not really. But I think, when it comes down to Dobbs, it's just like, can he maintain not dropping the football? That was a huge thing with him. I don't know how many drops he had last season, but like they were significantly down.
He did really good last year in the contested catch situations. He cleaned up the drops. Like to me, he is a legit at least a solid level wide receiver too, if not a high end one. Like he is a good player.
He was kind of the wide receiver one for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because Reed was hurt, Watson was still coming back. So, like, it was only Dobbs. And, they're young guys.
Well, you know what they call Dobbs in Green Bay? They call him, like, Walmart Devontae Adams.
Exactly.
Because he's got the same size as Devontae. They got incredible route running ability. Now, I don't think anyone would say Dobbs is even close to where Devontae was, especially in his prime. But if you want to talk about bringing in a receiver with the skill set that Rodgers likes, like, there's a reason why Green Bay drafted Romeo Dobbs right after they shipped Devontae Adams to the Las Vegas Raiders, because they saw a lot of the same things and a lot of the same strengths. Now, I think he's more of a wide receiver 2 type. Obviously, Devontae's an alpha number 1 type, or at least he was. But, this is the type of receiver that Rodgers would love to play with here in Pittsburgh. And, $20 million, even maybe a little bit more than that, I think I'd rather do that than trade a third-round pick for Jaden Reed.
And, exactly, you're going to have to pay him, 26, 27? It's going to be a lot for Reed, just because, I think he has more to be demanding that. I don't know, man. I think Dobbs is a perfect fit. Obviously, teams like the Commanders are apparently interested in him, Dobbs. So, you're going to have to get into a bidding war, too.
Yeah, I think San Francisco is going to make a very strong play for Dobbs, and it's going to be interesting to see how much money it's going to take for Dobbs to pick the Steel City over sunny California. But it's definitely going to be an interesting situation. There's some other wide receivers that we could talk about here that are potentially on the trade market. You could talk about Rashad Bateman, probably not an interdivision trade there. Who are some other guys that got listed today? Quentin Johnston, I don't think I want him as a wide receiver.
You talk about drop issues.
Yeah, you want to talk about drop issues. Quentin Johnston certainly fits that mold. Is there another name that I'm missing here?
There was a little article. I'll try to find it.
But Jalen Waddle is one that's been brought up, but it kind of sounds like it's similar to the Brian Thomas Jr. situation where they believe in him long term, and it's going to take a big draft pick, probably the first round pick this year to get him.
If not more.
Yeah, so I just don't see Jalen Waddle being an option. If I'm being honest with you guys, I'd be stoked if we got him, especially if we got him for anything less than a first. That would just be an incredible deal made by the con artist here. But, if we're talking more realistic, it's kind of weird to say it, but A.J. Brown is one of the more realistic trade possibilities for the Steelers as it stands right now, in my opinion. If you offer that second in Alex Highsmith, I think that, Howie might bite on that. It's not an impossibility. But right now, if I had to say who is the most likely solution at the wide receiver position, I would say they win that bidding war for Romeo Dobbs, and they just they pay him whatever really it takes to get him in the building. And if they miss out on him, what do they look at in free agency, Ponzi? Because, in terms of the true wide receiver 2 types that are there, a lot of them, I'm not sure if they fit the route runner type of mold that the Steelers are looking at that number 2 wide receiver spot. You've got Alec Pierce, who's a big body, kind of deep threat. I don't think that's necessarily what the Steelers are looking for. Pierce is a really good player, but he's going to be in that similar kind of range of Jaden Reed, where he's going to get probably $27 million a year, maybe more than that, just because of the fact that this isn't a great market. Mike Evans is another one of those true X receivers that doesn't have a particularly vast route tree. Not to mention he's getting older. I don't see the Steelers being interested in him. Deebo Samuel is interesting to me, Ponzi, because especially if you're bringing back Rodgers, having guys on your team that are yak specialists is really important. Not to mention Deebo can help in the backfield as well if you miss out on bringing back Kenneth Gainwell. Debo's got better hands than he gets credit for. He's not a good route runner, though. So that would be the thing, is that you would have to get your route runner in the draft if you bring in Debo. But
I definitely think that's an option.
Yeah, and he'd be cheap. He'd be relatively cheap. Right now, The Athletic projects him at just a 1-year deal worth $12.5 million. Like, that is if you're looking for somebody that can be your stopgap wide receiver 2, but you bring in a really high-end wide receiver in the draft who's eventually going to take over that wide receiver 2 spot, Debo is somebody that can fill that role nicely, where I think he would be one of the best wide receiver 3s in football if this first-round rookie can really do some good stuff.
I mean, I'm seeing, Ayuk and, Addison for trade target. Ayuk.
Yeah, Addison. We haven't really heard his name a whole lot. It seems like the Vikings are probably keeping him. And then when it comes to Ayuk,
it seems like a commander.
Seems like it's a done deal. He's going to Washington on Wednesday when he gets cut by the 49ers. He wants to play with Jaden Daniels. So Ayuk is not somebody that I think the Steelers are considering, especially after how the whole saga concluded.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers might feel led astray by him because they were 100% sure that they were going to get him,
and apparently
and they didn't.
He nixed it.
Yeah, apparently Brandon Ayuk kind of used the Steelers to trying to leverage the 49ers to giving him the money they eventually gave him. And after those reports surfaced, I don't know if the Steelers want to do business with him. So I don't see Ayuk as an option. Stephon Diggs, maybe, but he's got legal troubles right now and with some very serious allegations. I don't know if you want to bring that into your building.
There was a report saying the Steelers were among the favorites, and I'm like, that just sounds
I think they're
talking about crash outs with DK. You don't want to deal with Stephon.
Yeah, I don't know if Stephon's the guy we want to bring in. He's a good football player, but I don't know if we want that person in our locker room. Jawan Jennings is an interesting one, too, because he's another one of those guys where it's he could be a wide receiver, too, to start the season. But if we have a rookie that's really playing well, Jawan Jennings has been a wide receiver 3 for most of his career. He's very comfortable in that kind of role. Shouldn't be too expensive.
No.
I could definitely see Jawan Jennings be a target for the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow, especially if they can't get Romeo Doubs, because they're similar type of guys, right? They're not burners necessarily, but they have really strong hands. They are good route runners, nuanced route runners, really snappy at the top of their breaks. They're not fast players, but they're good route running wide receivers with big frames. So I could see Jawan Jennings being the guy they pivot to if Romeo Doubs goes to San Francisco, for example, early tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, Jawan Jennings would fit right into that wide receiver 3 role. I think, some interesting lower end names. Wan'Dale Robinson. No, I don't really like him at all.
Well, he's going to the Titans, number one. Second of all, I think his production was very manufactured in that Giants offense last year with Malik Neighbors going down. There's no way he gets to 1,000 yards if Malik plays the entire season, in my opinion. And then also he's too expensive. He's expected to get $17 million a year, and I just
Titans are going to do that.
I just don't see him being that valuable.
So then you got Shaheed. I don't know.
The Steelers were interested in Shaheed last year, so that's a possibility. But again, it goes back to we need somebody that can be a route runner to the short and intermediate levels of the field. Shaheed is kind of more of a true deep threat, and that's all he's really been throughout his career. Now, maybe he's got an amazing route runner in there, and we just haven't seen it. But, Shaheed is like an upgraded version of Calvin Austin III, and we saw that type of player. It just doesn't work with DK Metcalf as the number one because you got to have somebody in this group that can separate man-to-man and get some of that safety attention off of DK.
Yeah, I think, Shaheed, I definitely think, Clay Kubiak used him wrong. I definitely think, whenever you look at, Shaheed, he did really well on crossers. So he basically had him on end-arounds and goes in orbit motions. It's Shaheed's not going to do that. Shaheed's basically just going to use his speed. And, that's good, but, do you really just want another Calvin Austin? I really think, the guys that I'm looking at, Romeo Doubs,
Jawan Jennings, Debo Samuel, and we heard that Michael Pittman Jr. might get cut. If he gets cut, I would be interested in him for the right price tag.
Yeah,
Calvin Ridley, I'd be interested in for the right price tag.
I definitely think Ridley's a very nice pivot. Very nice pivot.
But, I was kind of expecting those guys to get cut by now, and they haven't been yet.
Yeah.
So, are they keeping those guys? I don't know.
I don't know, man. I think, Obviously, Tennessee's going to be figuring out their own thing. Maybe they use Ridley. Maybe, Dabble gets in, or Dable gets, makes that right. But, like, I don't know, man. I feel like if we're to really speculate on top of, like, wide receivers, I think one of them's guaranteed, in my opinion. I think, Jalen Tolbert, cheap deal, gets it done.
Yeah.
But I don't know who the other guy's going to be. Like, I think, on paper it should be Dobbs. I think, Dobbs would fit really nicely, but like there are competition for him, and like the Steelers could get outbid. A big reason of Mike Tomlin attracting free agents here was that name. People wanted to play for Mike Tomlin. Mike McCarthy may not have that appeal. We'll see.
Probably not. This is why I'm kind of hoping Rodgers signs relatively soon, because like I feel like if anybody brings the cachet of I get to play with this player, it would be Aaron Rodgers. But DK edits, we see you, my friend. We'll make sure to get your question in the mailbag. Okay, you don't need to spam it.
Yeah, we got you.
We'll get to super chats here in just a second, and we'll get into the mailbag here once we have enough questions. I see a lot of questions already getting in there, so we should be pretty good to go once we get through the super chats here. And by the way, feel free to put hashtag Steelers or Super Chat any question that you have. I'm happy to answer any questions before the start of free agency here. We're only going to do free agency or trade questions on the mailbag today, though, so we'll have plenty of time to answer draft questions, guys. But yeah, so make sure you get those questions in. Super Chat is the only way to guarantee your question gets on the mailbag today. Plus, you get put on screen here, so get those questions in. But Bernard with a 5, my guy, says the way Rodgers talks on the Pat McAfee show makes me think he might be Plan B. I see where you're coming from there. I said it on this show after the interview last week, where he was talking about how it takes 2 to tango, and we'll see what happens in free agency and all this different stuff, and he made it seem like the Steelers were the ones that weren't offering him a contract. But like, unless the Steelers are just doing an ultimate smokescreen here where they're telling everybody we want Rodgers, but they secretly want somebody else, wouldn't be the first time this organization has done something like that. But I don't really see Mike McCarthy being that type of person. Like, Mike Tomlin is the type of guy that loved to manipulate the media. I think Mike McCarthy's too genuine of a guy to kind of play those games with the media. I don't know. It's just my take on him. And like, he was asked, do you want Rodgers back? And his answer was immediately, yes, I want him back. In fact, he said, why wouldn't you want him back? And he's talked about a number of times that he wants Aaron Rodgers back. And Omar Khan said, we're leaving the door open for him, which pretty much tells me that the Steelers have told Aaron in these conversations, if at any point you want to sign a contract before free agency, you can be locked in as our starting quarterback for next year, right? I can almost guarantee you that Mike McCarthy or Omar Khan has told Aaron at any point before free agency, if you want to commit to this team, we will have a contract ready for you. And the money and the contract is the last thing that they're going to figure out, right? Like, it's going to be very similar to last year, where like Rodgers has said it himself. He doesn't care about the money at this point. He's made a fortune in his career. Like, it's going to be 10 to somewhere between 10 and 15 million. It's what it's going to be. And that's not going to be the thing that's debated over. The thing that's being debated over is, will Rodgers play, and will he play for the Steelers? And the fact that it's gotten to this point tells me, actually, that I think it's Rodgers that is the one that wants to see what's out there in free agency. Because, plain simply, this Steelers team let him down last year. This front office let him down last year by giving him a dog shit wide receiver room outside of DK Metcalf. Period. And he doesn't want to get stuck in that situation again. And if he's going to continue to play football, and it sounds like he wants to go to the situation that gives him the best chance to win before he retires. And it's very possible that he sees Minnesota, the place that was his preference last year, as that place. And it's possible that he wants to have conversations with KOC and wants to have conversations with the Vikings once the legal tampering period begins tomorrow. And if those go well, who knows? He might be a Viking. But it kind of sounds like, based on the reporting right now, that the Vikings are leaning towards Kyler. So I think, the way that it might work out this week is Kyler goes to the Vikings, or the Vikings tell Rodgers tomorrow, our plan is to sign Kyler Murray. When that happens, Rodgers could very well call Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy and say, I'm in, I'm back as the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback. That's not ideal because it makes us feel in this situation, Ponzi, as a second option. But like at the end of the day, like he wanted to go to the Rams and the Vikings last year. And we were technically his third option last year, and he loved it here in Pittsburgh last year. And I think he would still really like to play in Pittsburgh. And especially if they can make a move for Romeo Doubs or an A.J. Brown or somebody that can be a legitimate partner for DK Metcalf, I think that definitely sways Rodgers back into the Steelers' camp because he did enjoy himself here last year, Ponzi. He does feel very good about this coaching staff that Mike McCarthy has assembled here in Pittsburgh with a lot of Rodgers' buddies from Green Bay. So, like, if the Steelers can land a legitimate wide receiver 2 by the time Kyler Murray becomes available on Wednesday, which I think is pretty darn likely, I think Rodgers will return. But I don't think Rodgers wants to commit to the Steelers before seeing what they do at receiver. I think that's probably what's the holdup here, Bernard. $2 again from Bernard. Says Colin Coward said Rodgers would be a top 10 QB next year. Yeah, I think we might actually do a video on this pretty soon here, especially if we bring back Rodgers. But yeah, Colin was like, if you're giving me a quarterback for one season, give me Aaron Rodgers in the top 10, which is, I mean, I don't know if I would agree with him on that. I would probably put Rodgers right now more in like the middle of the pack for one season quarterbacks. I think there's just a lot of big-time playmakers at the position nowadays where, you know, I guess you could make an argument maybe top 10, but like I still think he's a good starting quarterback. You know, I think that's kind of the main message there, right? Is that Rodgers is still a good starting quarterback in this league, especially if this team that he goes to can give him a proper weapon set. Because last year, that didn't happen. He did have 2 good receivers in New York, but everything else around him was crumbling, right? And then going back to Green, then 2023, he has his Achilles tear. 2022, he doesn't have Devontae Adams, and he breaks his thumb midseason. So we haven't seen a healthy Aaron Rodgers paired with a good organization, with a solid roster, paired with a good wide receiver room since 2021. And he won MVP that season. Now, I'm not saying Rodgers can still win MVPs at his age, but like I think with the roster that the Steelers have, the coaching that they have brought in, and if they can get him a good wide receiver room, if Rodgers comes back next year, it's not super crazy to think that he could be a top 10 producer at the position, in my opinion. We'll just have to see who they pair him with, and hopefully they can get some good weapons for him this year. $2 from Trumper says, "What about Geno Smith? It wasn't him. It wasn't him. It was the Raiders." That, I mean, certainly part of that statement is true. I don't know if Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes could have thrived in that Raiders situation because his best players were injured. Brock Bowers. Jacoby Myers gets traded midseason, and he really didn't want to be there the first half of the year. Then Ashton Genty in the run game. Nothenberger had a terrible O-line, always under pressure, one of the worst defenses in the league, so he was always playing with a deficit. But, you know, Geno, I would say his arm strength did decrease a little bit last year, in my opinion. I think he had a lot of bad overthrows. Like, it wasn't just the Raiders system, but I understand what you're coming from there, Trumper. And listen, if you miss out on Rodgers, if you miss out on Malik Willis, if you miss out on Kyler Murray, like these bona fide QB1 options, and you're bringing in somebody as like a bridge veteran that's going to compete with Will Howard and maybe another younger quarterback option next year, you could do a lot worse than Geno. You know, he played pretty darn well for Seattle a couple years ago. He's somebody that has established chemistry with DK Metcalf. He would come at the vet minimum. Like, there's some things that are appealing about Geno Smith as a veteran bridge QB option. But I don't think anybody is saying Geno is like the answer where like you got to pick him as your first option at quarterback this year. Like, I think at best he is your 4th, 5th, or 6th best option this year. Like, he's just, you know, he's not Rodgers, he's not Willis, he's not Murray in terms of the caliber of wide receiver or quarterback free agent this year, in my opinion. Got another one here. I think we got a Venmo here as well. I'll send it to you, Ponzi. if you want to read the next one out. Super Chat software's being a little slow here, guys, so just bear with us here. We'll get to everybody's Super Chats, and we'll get into the mailbag, and then we'll stick around as long as you guys want us to, as long as the Super Chats keep flowing. All right, we'll just get to the Venmo here while we wait for our Super Chats to load. Robert Locke with a $10 Venmo here. My man Robert says, just a thank you to Cassie, Jack, and Ponzi for all the great analysis and work that they do. Congrats on the fast approaching nuptials. I appreciate you, Robert Locke. Thank you for the 10. You are a real one. Always have been, always will be. Thank you so much for your support for the channel, my friend. Now, we do have our Super Chats loaded. Bernard says, last year showed us it was the Jets all along, not Aaron Rodgers. Listen, I actually was going to do this weekend. I didn't have time, though. I think I might do it tonight. I'm going to be taking a look at the jump that the Pittsburgh Steelers offense had from 2024 to 2025 with Rodgers at quarterback compared to the rest of the league. Because I think the Steelers, you can make an argument, was one of the league's most improved offenses last year. Now, the offense wasn't great. It was average because, plain and simply, the wide receiver room, in my opinion, held the team and the passing offense back. But, given what Rodgers had to work with, I think you can make an argument he played pretty darn well last year. He helped the team lead the league in yak. He was very smart with the football. He got the ball out quickly to playmakers out in space. At the end of the day, this team finished above league average in points per game. That's the first time in multiple years at this point, probably since the Big Ben days. So, I think Aaron Rodgers, if anything, elevated this group last year. And if you can get some legitimate wide receiver help for Rodgers in this offense, I'm telling you, man, I think Rodgers can be a pretty damn good starting quarterback in this league. And we've seen over the last 2 years, good enough quarterback play is good enough to win you a Super Bowl, right? Sam Darnold with a great supporting cast won a Super Bowl this year. Jalen Hurts with an elite supporting cast won a Super Bowl this year. And I'm telling you guys, the supporting cast for the Steelers is not that far away, all right? I keep saying this, man. You bring in the coaching staff that I believe is upgrading the scheme and the play calling on both sides of the football. With the talent and the veteran talent that you have on defense, I think that defense can potentially go to the next level, from a good defense to a great or potentially even elite defense, which would certainly help this team get into Super Bowl contention. And then if the offense can go from middle of the pack average to good to close to great, then you're talking about one of the most well-balanced, well-built football teams in football next year, with a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers that has won a Super Bowl, has been to a number of conference championship games, has a ton of playoff experience, knows how to play in the cold. I'm telling you, man, if you want this team to have their best chance to compete for a championship next year, Aaron Rodgers is the guy. Now, obviously, it takes two to tango. He has to want to come here, all that different stuff. All that applies. But, I think that Rodgers probably gives us our best shot in the short term. And then in the 2027 draft, where it's supposed to be a really good quarterback class, you can take your franchise quarterback there. Or Will Howard really impresses again, and he's your answer. But it gives Will another year and hopefully some preseason games this year to kind of show us what he can do before we just say, here we go, Will Howard, 6th-round pick out of Ohio State that has never played a down in the NFL. You are our now starting quarterback. Have fun. And it's for somebody that wants to see this team compete next year, that scares the living shit out of me. I think the chances that Will Howard turns into a franchise-level quarterback in the first year of his NFL career, essentially, it's pretty darn low. And my biggest fear, Ponzi, is this team finally has the team to go on a deep playoff run. The defense gets fixed. The wide receiver room gets fixed. The offensive line continues to grow. The run game's really good. But, there's one problem. We have the worst starting quarterback in the league because we decided to start a 6th-round rookie. That's my biggest fear. People always talk about, it's a win-win. If Howard stinks, we get a quarterback. We get a quarterback anyway if we want one. If you really want a quarterback in 2027, you could not have I'm not going to go that far, but you could be drafting in the 30s And you could trade up and trade your 2028 first-round pick to get a quarterback. Like, people need to get over this idea that the Steelers need to be bad in order to be good. Like, the Seattle Seahawks were stuck in purgatory last year, 10-17 the year before, won the Super Bowl. Philadelphia, the year before they won the Super Bowl, 10-7. Like 10-7 versus 13-4, 14-3. Couple of tweaks. I'm telling you, man, the Steelers team can get there. All right, another question from Bernard says, I hope the Steelers don't cut Rodgers and sign Cousins. Well, they can't cut Rodgers because he's not under contract. He's a free agent. But Cousins, I really hope they don't sign him. Now, if they do sign Cousins, that would be like maybe my 7th or 8th best option, and might even be lower just because he can't throw the ball very far or very fast anymore. And you want to talk about an AFC North quarterback and having a guy with a strong arm that can cut through the conditions and play in the weather. Cousins' arm strength, it's getting to Drew Brees at the end of his career territory. Bad.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He never really had that arm strength either.
Well, he had a decent arm in his prime, but he never had a howitzer.
Yeah.
But now, he's lost it. I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball 40 yards further in a long throw competition compared to Cousins. I'm not even convinced Cousins is capable of throwing it 50 yards anymore. It's that bad. So, I'm definitely more in favor of Rodgers and Cousins. $5 from Robert Locke says, will the Bungles finally do right in the offseason and draft this year and be a threat? No. They have drafted so many of these project-type defensive players, Miles Murphy, Shamar Stewart, Chris Jenkins, all these guys, and none of them are good. And, some of their draft picks have worked out. DJ Turner's a good pick. Dax Hill's a pretty good pick. But generally speaking, their linebacking core is awful. Their defensive line is awful. Their safety room is awful. And they got a lot to fix there on the defensive side of the ball there in Cincinnati. And then can Joe Burrow stay healthy? I don't know. They just do a terrible job protecting him there. Zach Taylor, I think, is not a good head coach. I think very regularly he does not have his teams ready for the NFL regular season. Very regularly. There's a reason why their record is so bad as it is early in seasons with Zach Taylor. I think they're going to do it again, and they're going to finish third in this division next year. $5 from Cringe Meat. Crazy name there, man. Do you think Kyler Murray has the same disaster risk as someone like Anthony Richardson? I personally do. Bad locker room guy, small size, not adjusted to the cold. Listen, man, Kyler is not a great quarterback candidate for the Steelers. I'll say that right now, okay? He's not a slam dunk because of a number of different reasons that you kind of lay out nicely there, Cringe Meat. He's really small, and he's got small hands, and he's very rarely played in cold weather conditions. Only one game in over 120 NFL regular season games that has been below 45 degrees. He will play in more than that next year as the starting quarterback of the Steelers if he comes here. All right? He's only played in one game where it's been raining outside, and that was one of the worst games of his career. It was in Green Bay 2 seasons ago. He is somebody that can't see over the middle of the field because he just doesn't have the height to. He's somebody that really relies on his athleticism, and he's getting close to 30. And as you guys know, with wide receivers, cornerbacks, running backs, once they hit 30, that athleticism starts to wane. And when that happens, people talk about Kyler Murray like he still has 12 years left as an NFL starting quarterback. You really think a 36, 37-year-old Kyler Murray is going to be running around doing the crazy out-of-structure playmaking stuff that he's been known for? I think he might have 2 or 3 more years of that before it starts to wane and before he turns into the next Russell Wilson, where, we saw what Russ looked like at the end of his career, and it wasn't good. And once Kyler Murray loses his athleticism the same way Russ did, it's going to be a very similar type of player. And I don't love the long-term prospects of Kyler Murray. With that said, he comes at the vet minimum. And if you can't bring in your number one option in Aaron Rodgers and you look at the rest of the landscape, like I would go after Malik Willis tomorrow. If you can't get him, who else other than Kyler Murray are you bringing in? Derek Carr and trading for his contract? You bringing in Geno Smith? Are you bringing in Kirk Cousins? Are you trading for Anthony Richardson? Like, listen, man, like on the vet minimum, I don't think Kyler Murray's like a slam dunk awesome option at quarterback 1 for the Steelers, but like he's better than the other options that would be available at that point. So, like, if we can get him on the vet minimum, I would be okay with it. Because if he stinks, you play Will Howard at the end of the season, see what he's got, and if he's not good enough, you draft a quarterback in 27. That's the way that I would approach it, cringe meat. I agree with a lot of the things that you say there. Don't think Kyler is a slam dunk quarterback guy. Definitely won't sign him to a long-term deal, but for a 1-year vet minimum deal, you could do a lot worse than Kyler Murray. $5 from Steeler Kev. Appreciate you, Kev. If you got a question, you want to get on the mailbag, make sure you use hashtag Steelers. Ponzi will make sure to get you in there. And then we got another one from Bernard here. A couple more from Bernard. Surprised no one's asked about the Crosby trade yet. Surprised no one's asked me about that yet. $5 from Bernard. It says, what does Pro Football Writers of America MVP mean? I don't know, man. $5 from Bernard again. He says Hurts threw for 2,000 yards and won the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts was not the reason why the Steelers won the Super Bowl. Eagles, my mistake. Like, listen, man. If the Steelers win the Super Bowl next season, would Aaron Rodgers be the number one reason why? I would say probably not. I think he'd be a big reason why they would win it. But, like, if they're going to be a Super Bowl team, like, not only does Rodgers have to play well, but also the defense, in my opinion, has to be at least great, but probably elite. Like, that is a huge X factor that I feel like people just don't talk about, is, like, how important it is for Patrick Graham to get this defense right. Like, we've been saying it over the last several years. If you're going to pay the defensive side of the ball that much money, they have to be great or elite, period. And they haven't been, and, you know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, we were really frustrated with Mike Tomlin and Tara Loston these last several years, is that they were spending the money and they had the kind of talent to be a really good defense, and they just weren't. And they were being held back by the coaching, in my opinion, in that regard. And now we have an opportunity with Patrick Graham, somebody that's known for getting the most out of the players on his roster, the exact opposite of what Tara Loston was known for here in Pittsburgh. Hopefully Patrick Graham's the guy that can, you know, reestablish that tradition of elite defensive football here in Pittsburgh. And if that happens, that's going to give Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the Steelers team a really good chance, you know, to be a fucking good football team next year. $2 from Robert Locke says, what do you think of the Crosby trade? There we go. We got a Crosby trade question. Well, it's definitely interesting. I think Baltimore on paper overpaid for him. I'm surprised the Raiders got 2 firsts for him. You know, like, for somebody that's had the injuries that he's had, somebody that's as old as he is, somebody with the contract that he has, to me, I wouldn't have paid 2 firsts for him. And it sounds like multiple teams were like, we're not giving you 2 firsts. The team that's kind of like stood up and said, I'll give you 2 first-round picks was the Baltimore Ravens. And listen, man, like, I get it from the Ravens' perspective too. Because, like, they've got Lamar Jackson, who's still in his prime, and he's an athletic guy. So, like, he's kind of like Kyler Murray, where it's like you don't know how long his prime is going to be. He might be one of these guys that stinks when he gets into his mid-30s. So you don't know how much longer you have of prime Lamar Jackson. You have Derrick Henry, who is also getting older. You don't know how much you have left in Derrick Henry's tank. You have Zay Flowers. You have Mark Andrews. You have a defense that has Kyle Hamilton on it and Nate Wiggins and Roquan Smith and these guys. And it sounds like Matt Abuike is going to be making a return at some point. So bringing in a guy like Max Crosby, an elite pass rusher, makes their defense better. It just does, and it makes their team better. And we'll see how it plays out for them. I will say their roster is very top-heavy, so if they start getting a couple of injuries to some of these key players, they're fucked. But, you know, they got a lot of high-end talent on that squad. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, I really thought, you know, with Crosby, like Minter was going to get that defense, getting more pressure because that was just a terrible defense in terms of pressure. Like they were not being able to get pressure at all. I think they had a decent pressure rate, but
I think they had 30 sacks last year.
Yeah,
that was really bad.
That's really bad. So I think if you look at it from pure stance, they get better, they get that edge rusher they're looking for, but dude, 2 firsts is kind of crazy.
Yeah, the big thing.
Micah got 2 firsts in Kenny Clark.
Yeah, and Micah's way younger, and I think he's better than Crosby is. Now, Crosby, really good player when he's on the field and healthy. I think the biggest question mark for him these next few years in Baltimore is going to be, can he stay healthy? Because he hasn't been able to the last couple of years.
No.
So, we'll just have to see. He's a damn good football player. He makes the Steelers' jobs more difficult heading into future years. That's for damn sure.
Troy Fautano and Dylan Cook, man.
But, hey, man, you draft Troy Fautano for a reason, and that's to block that guy, and to block, the best in the world.
Myles Garrett, all of them.
Exactly. $5 from Heath Miles says, I did not like Kenny G at the start of last year. I have changed. Why are we going to let him walk? Doesn't seem like a big risk to me. So here's what I think the situation with Kenny G is. They have a number that they'd want to sign him back for. And that number that they have offered to Kenny before free agency is a number that Kenny thinks that he can beat on the open market. I don't know what that number is for Pittsburgh. Maybe it's 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7. Whatever the number is that they've offered him, Kenny wants to see if he can get more on the open market. Because this might be Kenny's last opportunity to get to cash in and, really, get a big payday for himself and his family. So, I do think Kenny probably goes to the place that offers him the most money. Now, will that be Pittsburgh? I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm sure Kenny loves playing here. I know that for a fact. But, if some team is offering him $2 million more per season to go play there, and maybe they give him a number 1 receiving role or number 1 running back role, he's going to take that opportunity. So, I think the Steelers feel pretty confident in what their offer is. They want him back. It's not like they're letting him go and letting him walk. They want him back. It's just whatever number that Kenny Gainwell wanted to stay in Pittsburgh and get an extension done before free agency began, it was too high for Pittsburgh. And obviously I don't know details of what Kenny asked for. I don't know what Pittsburgh offered him, but obviously it wasn't good enough for the two sides to come together. I would love Kenny Gainwell to be back next year. There's a reason why this guy was the team MVP last year. He was the Swiss Army knife that really saved a lot of drives and, frankly, a lot of games for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. And Kenny G and Jaylen Warren were the best thing about this offense last year. Point blank, period. If you lose Kenny G, you're missing a big part of your offense moving forward. So I would love Kenny G to be back, but it's definitely a possibility someone offers him more and he goes elsewhere. In that case, I think the Steelers would probably be comfortable paying the vet minimum for Aaron Jones, who's very close with Aaron Rodgers. Still a good receiving back. He's not what he once was. He's not a number 1 guy anymore, but he can do the Kenny Gainwell stuff. And if he's just straight up washed, Caleb Johnson, it's your turn, buddy. So we'll see what happens. I hope Kenny G's back, but it shouldn't be. If I'm the Steelers, I'm just pay him what he wants, man. It can't be that much. $2 from Jason says, what about Wan'Dale Robinson? Wan'Dale is somebody that has been very heavily linked to the Titans, so I think he's going to go there. But even then, I think his numbers from last season where he had over 1,000 yards were manufactured in a lot of ways by Malik Neighbors being injured, them not having much of a run game after Scadaboo got injured, and the fact that Jackson Dart just needed easy completions, right? So I think Wan'Dale's a good player. I don't think he's a wide receiver 2 level guy. I think he's a solid slot wide receiver 3. And I'm not paying $17 million a year, which is what he's expected to go for a decent slot wide receiver 3. $2 from Sam Pugh. What's up, Sam? Good to see you. The original Black Diamond showing up with us here today. Says, Ravens gonna choke, 2 less picks to re-choke with. Yeah, man. Like I said, injuries could loom large for the Ravens. When you have a top-heavy roster the way the Ravens do, with that many high-level veterans on high-level veteran contracts, you better hope those guys don't get injured, because if they do, you're going to be having a lot of rookies and a lot of players that probably shouldn't be out there for your football team. And you're going to have some weaknesses to your football club on your roster. Now, Lamar Jackson's the type of quarterback that can elevate a team from some of their deficiencies if he's healthy and if he's playing at an MVP level. But kind of like Kyler, he's starting to get some of these injuries piling up, and he's starting to get older. And as these athletic quarterbacks tend to get older, man, they're forced to play more from the pocket. And I don't know if Lamar's going to be an elite level top 5 quarterback when he's asked to play that way. So we'll see what happens with the Ravens. I'm certainly not giving hope on our Steelers. I definitely think the potential's there for another division championship if we can put it together the right way this offseason. $5 from Steelers. Kev says the Ravens could have paid Linderbaum and likely and still had a bunch of money left over, plus they gave up the 14th overall pick. A bunch of money, yeah. So I don't disagree, Steeler Kev, but I don't think it would have made sense to pay likely just because they're already paying Mark Andrews. Now, maybe you could have said, don't extend Mark Andrews and bring back Isaiah Likely instead. That would have been the smart move, but they decided not to do that. Linderbaum, $22.5 million for a center is a lot. It's a lot. And I feel like they can replace him with a decent center for way less money.
I'm showing here, it says they're still negative in the cap. They might be apparently the only got to do is just extend Lamar. According to Trader Joey.
Yeah, so we're kind of on Lamar watch right now because getting that extension done, and my guess is we get it at some point today, maybe tomorrow morning, but if they want to make any sort of signings in free agency this year, and honestly, I don't see the Ravens as a big free agency team this year, but they got to get into the black at some point. They got to get a deal done with Lamar Jackson. So we'll see what happens. $5 from Anthony says Eagles are getting calls for Jalen Carter. Highsmith for Carter. I love Jalen Carter as a player. First of all, you got to extend him. And that's already a lot of money on the defensive line here in Pittsburgh. Second of all, apparently there's a reason why Philly wants to unload him. He's not particularly, let's just say he gets into trouble from time to time.
Let's say he gets into people's faces,
Yeah,
and spits on them.
Let's say that, maybe the personality is not exactly what Mike McCarthy wants to bring in here. And you're already loaded at defensive tackle for the most part, right? It kind of seems like Cam Hayward is going to be coming back for another year. Obviously, you still have Keanu Benson under contract. You still have Derek Harmon. I think they're going to bring in a veteran nose tackle this offseason. You've got Y.A. Black. You've got a pretty good foundation of interior D linemen. If I'm trading Highsmith for an Eagles player, I'm trading him for A.J. Brown. That's just me personally. Now, Carter's an unbelievable talent, obviously, and if you combine him with the likes of Cam Hayward and Derek Harmon and T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, and, well, I guess in this scenario would be Herbig, not Highsmith, but you guys get my point. It would be an overwhelming force on the defensive line. But, do we really want to give another ginormous contract to a defensive player? We really want to do that, guys? Do we want to trade Highsmith? And by the way, it wouldn't just be Highsmith. You would have to probably give up a first-round pick and Highsmith to get Carter. And do you really want to give up a first-round pick this year? I don't know. I think if I want to bring in one of these Eagles players, I want to bring in A.J. Brown and fix our wide receiver issue before we address D-line. You can get a starting-level nose tackle for less than $10 million a season in free agency. And your pass rush is already really good. It's not like you need a dynamic interior pass rusher to fix your team. Cam Hayward, Derek Harmon, T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, those guys are good at getting at the quarterback already. So, personally, I don't think the Steelers are going to be in on Jalen Carter. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just want to really load up and try to make the Steel Curtain 2.0 here and take the risk on the money and take the risk on the person and all that different stuff. But for me, if I'm trading Highsmith for an Eagles player, I'm bringing in A.J. Brown and fixing the receiver position. All right, well, we got enough questions here, so let's get into those questions on our mailbag. Keep super chatting, keep getting your questions in, all that different stuff. We'll stay live as long as the super chats keep flowing. But I appreciate all of your guys' support. Let's get into the mailbag coming at you right now. We are just hours away from the start of NFL free agency for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and today I'm going to be answering your questions on the Pittsburgh Steelers as we approach free agency here in 2026. Now, before we get into the questions today, you guys can check out my perfect free agency plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers, where I make a number of different signings. In that video, I break down my perfect offseason plan, what I would do if I were the Steelers, if I had my pick of the litter. And then also I tell you what I think the Steelers will actually do in free agency this year. I'll put the chip to that one in the top right if you want to check out that video. But as always, make sure you guys click that subscribe button here on Steelers Talk for all of our free agency coverage over the next week. We're going to be live pretty much all day, every day this week, especially the first 3 days of free agency. Hopefully we get a solution to our quarterback situation sooner rather than later. Same thing goes for our wide receiver 2 situation. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button to never miss a signing, never miss a trade, never miss a cut here on Steelers Talk. $5 coming in from Steeler Kev says, do we need to add 4 wide receivers and 2 running backs this offseason? I think with wide receivers, you probably add at least 4. I've heard estimates up to 5 new wide receivers being added to this group. Mike McCarthy likes to use a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and he likes to use different types of wide receivers. So I think, in years past, we've seen 5 and 6 wide receivers get brought onto the roster under Arthur Smith, and he's had a higher emphasis on tight ends. Obviously, with Mike McCarthy, I think that philosophy is going to change a bit. So I do think that there will be multiple additions to the wide receiver room, probably 2 in free agency, and then anywhere between 2 and 3 in the NFL draft, okay, is probably what I would project for this offseason. In terms of running backs, I would say for sure 1, but probably 2 running back additions. One where it's going to be in the mix to be getting playing time, and then another one will probably be more of a depth signing, in my opinion, because you've got Jalen Warren, you've got Caleb Johnson, who I don't think the team wants to give up on yet. I think they bring back a Kenneth Gainwell, maybe they bring in an Aaron Jones or something like that to be their RB2. But then whoever comes in at that RB4 spot is going to be more depth than anything. $5 from Heath Miles says, I did not like Kenny G at the start of last year. I have changed. Why are we going to let him walk? He doesn't seem like a big risk to me. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think the Steelers do want him back. I don't think they're just letting him walk. Like they're not interested in bringing him back. Omar Khan, the Steelers GM, has said, we want him back. But what I think has happened here, Heath, is that the Steelers have offered Kenneth Gainwell a contract that they're comfortable with. I don't know what number that's at, $4 million, $5 million, $6 million. And whatever, that number is, it's not lining up with what Kenny's representation wants out of this free agency. Like maybe they want $8, maybe they want $9 million per season, because this is really Kenny's opportunity coming off a team MVP season, coming off a year where he really showed what he could do. This might be his best opportunity to really cash in for his future and his family's future. So I do think he probably ends up going to the highest bidder, and I think that he feels like he owes it to himself to see who that highest bidder is. So we'll see how much the Steelers value him. We'll see if another team values him more. But I'll tell you this much, man. If you want Aaron Rodgers back next year, you might want to bring back his favorite weapon from last year in Kenneth Gainwell. $2 from Robert Locke says, what do you think of the Crosby trade, LMAO? I think the Ravens overpaid for him on paper, but I understand why they did it. They just don't know how long of a prime they have left in Lamar Jackson. I don't see Lamar as somebody that's going to, be playing into his 40s the way that Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers have been able to do. I think that he's going to be somebody whose skill set expires rather quickly. in the NFL after he turns 30. And, he's approaching that date really quickly. So they wanted to bring in somebody that immediately gives them a number one caliber, alpha-type edge rusher. And I think the biggest question with Crosby is, can he stay healthy? Because when he's on the field, he's an amazing football player. You're pairing him up with some really good young pieces in their secondary, and Kyle Hamilton and Nate Wiggins, among others. And, if he stays healthy and that defense and all their top-end players stay healthy, this is going to be a dangerous football team. But with a team as top-heavy as the Ravens' roster is, if they just get a couple of injuries or if some of these players start to regress, then it's not looking good for the Baltimore Ravens moving forward, and they won't have first-round picks the next 2 years to refill the coffers, as it were, to bring in, high-end young talent into this roster. So it's definitely an all-in kind of move for the Baltimore Ravens. We'll see if it pays off for them, but all I got to say is you better keep these star players healthy. And keep them healthy consistently. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section. Who are you hoping that the Pittsburgh Steelers land an NFL free agency or trade for over the next week or so? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. Just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. While I tell you about our sponsor today, let me know a move that you're hoping the Steelers and Omar Khan pulls off this week. Now let's have word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million members and sign up today. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect, and you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And when my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So you guys can download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, next question here coming in from Theodore, who says, if Seumalo leaves, who are your top targets to replace him? Well, there's a number of different targets that they could potentially go after. I think somebody to keep your eye on is John Simpson. He was the left guard with the New York Jets a couple years ago when Rodgers was there, and he was a highly graded guard for them. Okay, and he was one of the bright spots on that offensive line. So something tells me that, Rodgers might have good feelings towards John Simpson, and he's expected to be relatively cheaper, like $8 million per season over like a 2-year contract. That might be what the Steelers are looking for at this point if they're not willing to give Seumalo 14 or whatever he's expected to get here this offseason. So he would be in the mix. I would say keep an eye on Brock Hoffman, former swing interior offensive lineman for the Cowboys that was brought in to Dallas under Mike McCarthy. Dave Edwards from Buffalo, another good starting left guard. Joel Bitonio, the Cleveland left guard over the last several seasons. He was the best player on that O-line last year for them, and he should come cheap. So there's some options out there that the Steelers can certainly consider. Certainly expect the Steelers to add a starting left guard before the end of free agency. $2 from Trumpers is, what about Geno Smith? It wasn't him, it was the Raiders. There's some truth to this. Football is still a team game, and I think a lot of people attribute team success to quarterback value or quarterback, skill, and sometimes that's just not exactly the case. If that were the case, Sam Darnold's the best quarterback in football right now. Jalen Hurts was the best quarterback in football 2 seasons ago. I think we all understand that that's probably not the case, right? Because, sometimes you get paired with an awesome defense and you're under contract, on a rookie deal sometimes. And, sometimes, your GM just does an amazing job putting some great players around you. You got the right pieces and the coaching staff around you, and everything just clicks, right? And the exact opposite happened for Geno Smith last year, where he's not capable of elevating a roster. So he needs just a phenomenal supporting cast around him to have success. And he had terrible offensive line play, no run game, pretty much no receiving weapons. His best one, Brock Bowers, was hurt for a big chunk of the year. A terrible defense, head coach that kind of lost the locker room, an offensive play caller that didn't know what the fuck he was doing. I'm sorry, Chip Kelly. but it wasn't good for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Geno, I think, maybe lost a little bit of his fastball, and the arm strength decreased a little bit. He is getting older. And then also, I think he had a lot of very bad overthrows and some really bad decisions with the football. But when you put a quarterback in that kind of situation, it's not going to be good for pretty much anybody. So if you bring in Geno, like if you lose out on Malik Willis, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, kind of the top end options for the Steelers this year, I wouldn't mind bringing in Geno for a vet minimum contract as a veteran bridge guy to compete with Will Howard or any other younger quarterbacks they bring in here. He does have established chemistry with DK Metcalf. I still think he has enough arm strength to play in the AFC North. And maybe with a better situation, kind of like Rodgers was better with the Steelers last year than he was with the Jets, maybe Geno could be a lot better here in Pittsburgh than he was with the Las Vegas Raiders. I think Geno's like more of a fourth, fifth, or maybe even sixth best option here. But, if you start losing out on these top options, you have to go with somebody, and Geno Smith might be that answer. Logan Fligman says, if we have extra cap, what do you think about Kenneth Walker III? Doubt it. Really doubt it. I think he's going to be somebody that goes tomorrow, and he's probably going to go to like the Kansas City Chiefs or go to the Washington Commanders. I just highly doubt, especially because the Steelers have Jaylen Warren, and Jaylen Warren is one of the most underrated running backs in the league, period. Like, he is a legitimate number one option. And, like, the Steelers don't need Kenneth Walker III, especially at the ginormous running back contract he's going to sign probably tomorrow. He's going to agree to with either the Chiefs or the Commanders. So, for me, Kenneth Walker III, not on my radar. Don't really believe the report from Filipponi, the report that he is on their radar. I think they want to get a running back too, either bring back Kenneth Gainwell, bring in Aaron Jones, maybe bring in Rico Dowdle. That'd be like the biggest name I could see them bringing in, but just because of his connection to McCarthy. But no, I don't think Kenneth Walker is a legitimate option for the Steelers this year. Make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a real one, I really do appreciate your guys' support. And the real ones know, clicking that thumbs up icon, it takes a half second of your time, and it helps boost the YouTube algorithm for this particular video. Gets this video in front of more Steelers fans, yeah, it just really helps out the channel, helps us get more eyeballs, more views, more subs, all that different stuff. So if you want to help us out today, click that thumbs up icon. Then we got Omar Con Artist here. Says Trey Lance with the McCarthy connection seems to be an option they are looking at. I agree, but I don't necessarily think as a starter. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe Mike McCarthy loves Trey Lance and thinks he can start in this league. He did show a lot of good things in the preseason last year with the Chargers, okay? And he showed some pretty decent things with McCarthy in Dallas at the end of the 2024 season, okay? So Trey Lance is one of those interesting rehab quarterback possibilities that are out there because he still has all the physical tools that got him drafted in the top 3, right? He's a good athlete, really strong arm, really talented player, great size, great person, all that stuff. It's just he didn't play a whole lot in college, didn't have a whole lot of attempts, and then he had the year off, and then he had to go play for the 49ers, gets injured, takes another year off essentially, and then, he wasn't very good his first year in the NFL after essentially 2 years off in a row. So I don't think that necessarily surprised me because I didn't think he was ready to play right away in the NFL, and he ended up moving on, and he hasn't really gotten an opportunity to be a starter since. So, would it completely shock me if they bring him in? No, especially as a backup. Let's say Aaron Rodgers comes back on a 1-year deal. I could see them cutting Mason Rudolph and bringing in Trey Lance on a $3 to $5 million contract over 2 years or something like that. And they can see between Trey Lance and Will Howard which one of those guys looks better, in preseason, in practice this year, and who's the future. And if the answer is none of them, you can just draft a quarterback in 2027. But I think, going with Trey Lance as your starting quarterback week 1 would certainly be a risk if the Pittsburgh Steelers go down that path. DK Edits says, if you were to guess, what do you think the biggest move the Steelers will make this year? Well, I think the biggest move that could possibly be on the table, this is not me making this prediction, by the way, but I think the biggest move that could potentially be on the table is a trade for A.J. Brown, okay? Because right now it seems like the Eagles kind of want to let go of A.J. Brown, and they're asking for a first and a second round pick. At the time of me recording this video, that has not been met. So, if the Eagles can't find anybody that's willing to give up a first-round pick for him, could they maybe consider a second-round pick from the Steelers this year and Alex Highsmith, somebody that is a really good player on a value contract at a position of need for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what I would be offering. If I was Omar Khan, I'd be on the phone with Howie Roseman right now saying, hey, this is my offer. You can take it or leave it. Not really, it's really no skin off our ass here. If you say, no, we're not giving you our first-round pick. Our offer is our second-round pick this year and Alex Highsmith in exchange for A.J. Brown. And pairing him back up with DK Metcalf, Ole Miss teammates would be amazing. It would be a top 3, if not the best receiver duo in the league immediately. It would certainly be quite a draw for these free agency quarterbacks that are going to be available over the next week or so. And you can afford it. You can. The cap hits are not that high for A.J. Brown. It's like a $15 million cap hit next year if you trade for him. It's like $18 million the next year. And the cap goes up by $20, $22, $25 million a season at this point. So, it's a very manageable contract if you trade for him. He's a top 5 receiver in the game currently, in my opinion. If the Steelers have an opportunity to make this happen, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if they have the opportunity to do it, I might take that chance if I'm Steelers GM Omar Khan. So it's your turn. Let me know down there in the comments section. What's a bold prediction that you have for the Steelers in free agency this year? Are they going to sign Malik Willis tomorrow? Are they going to trade for A.J. Brown? Is there going to be something else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's mailbag, guys. I greatly appreciate you guys stopping by here today. Of course, we're going to have extensive live free agency coverage all week long on this channel. So if you guys want to see every cut, every signing, every trade that Omar Khan makes this week as we build the 2026 Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason, make sure you guys click that subscribe button. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers. All right, we'll stay live as long as the questions keep coming in. Devone with a 2 says BTJ expected not to be moved. I did see that report today. I think it was from Jonathan Jones. And I think the reason why, Ponzi, is the Jaguars are like, listen, we still have him under contract for 3 more years. We don't have to move him. If we do move him, we want it to be at our price. And apparently their price is a first-round pick. So you have to be willing to pay that price tag. And for somebody that just came off a season with the kind of drops that he had, a big-time down year in his second season, I don't blame the Steelers for saying no to that first-round pick, that asking price. So, BTJ, really good player. If you can find a way to get him for anything less than a first-round pick, I'd be stoked. But, I don't expect this one to happen today or any day. $5 from Rob says, if the Steelers grab 2 big free agency wide receivers, why not grab that massive guard in the first round and take a wide receiver in round 2? I mean, that's certainly a possibility. If they fail, if they have somebody in mind or a couple people in mind at left guard and they miss out on all of those options and they're going into next season with Spencer Anderson, Broderick Jones as their left guard options, then yeah, they're going to draft a left guard very early. And it might be Ione out of Penn State. That's a very realistic possibility. Another thing you have to realize about the Steelers is that they like drafting trenches. Omar Khan has never not taken a trench player in round 1 as the Steelers GM. He took Broderick Jones, Troy Fautano, and then Derek Harmon last year. All big guys, okay? So it would not shock me if all the top receivers are off the board in round 1, they don't move up, and Ione's the best player on the board. Wouldn't shock me at all if they bring him in and draft him in round 1 and then draft a receiver in round 2. That would not surprise me in the slightest. $5 from Steeler Kev. What's that? Oh, okay. $5 from FJ. What's up, my man? Says, how much cap space do we really have? You said in one video we had 70, and then the next video you said we had 55. I'm a little confused. So this was a little bit of a mix-up on my part here because I thought Spotrac had not accounted for the $22 million being added to the cap when they had. So that's my mistake. It's 55, just so you know. Okay, it's 55, and that's what we have to work with at this point. So that's on me for saying 70 before. I added an extra 22 because I thought that that Spotrac didn't do that yet, but apparently they did. So that's on me. Yeah, it's like 50. Yeah. $2 from Steel Buckeye says, we move up in the draft and take Caleb Downs. Maybe. Like, especially if they bring in multiple good receivers during free agency, like our friend from just a few seconds ago suggested. Safety is a position that I do think they're going to, pursue. Like Thieneman, Downs maybe, if he falls a little bit. Apparently, he had a little bit of a knee issue at the combine, but then that was refuted. Like, there's conflicting reports on that knee issue on Downs. But he's just a damn good football player, man. And adding him to Jalen Ramsey and Deshaun Elliott would be disgusting. Would be an amazing, like, big nickel type of safety group. That's all I'll say. I would love, as long as you don't trade up too much to get him, and you don't trade too much to trade up for him, I'd be down for it. No pun intended. But Thieneman would be a really good pick at 21 as well. He is an awesome player out of Oregon. $2 from Samuel Pugh says Black Diamond meetup at the draft. Y'all coming? Love the idea, man, but we got to be in studio. We got to be here. That's our requirement. So if you want to organize a Black Diamond meetup, I mean, you absolutely could do that. But unfortunately, me and Ponzi will not be able to make it. $2 from DJ KJ says, Are the Steelers trading for Hendrickson? Is there another Hendrickson outside of Trey Hendrickson? Because if the question surrounding Trey Hendrickson, he's a free agent, and why would they add another top-end edge rusher when they already have three really good ones? Like, the issue with the Steelers is not that they need another edge rusher, it's that they have too many already. So if that's a typo, DJ KJ, let me know, and I'll answer the question for who you're actually asking for there. But yeah, no chance Hendrickson's a Steeler. No chance. Next question. A what? $2 from Schuleberg. Man, he still hasn't gotten over that. Says favorite QB option behind A-Rod. Malik Willis tomorrow. If I'm the Steelers and A-Rod has not made a decision by tomorrow, I'm making a play for Malik Willis. I am. That doesn't mean I'm giving up on Rodgers. It's more of a first come, first serve thing. Like the way that it works, Ponzi, because the Steelers, like this isn't Madden necessarily where it's like you can pretty much get whoever you want. It's pretty much like you have no idea who people are talking to. They could strike up deals at any moment. It's free agency in real life is a very fluid situation. And you got to have, if you don't have a quarterback option, you got to have multiple options that you're okay with. And like, I think the number one option for Pittsburgh is Aaron Rodgers. Okay. And I think they've told him over the last several weeks, hey, Aaron, if at any point you want to commit to this team for 2026 before free agency, the job is yours. All right. A-Rod has had the first opportunity. And right now, it's looking like, unless we get a deal within the next 24 hours, that he is going to pass on that opportunity of being the lone quarterback one option for the Steelers. And then by the time the tampering period begins tomorrow, I do believe Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy will be pursuing Malik Willis. Now, they're not going to overpay for him, right? They're not going to say, they're like if the price tag it just gets to an extreme amount, like I think other teams could potentially offer more than the Steelers. But like let's put ourselves in the shoes of Malik Willis here, Ponzi. If you're Malik, you're getting one more chance, to become a legitimate franchise quarterback. Are you going to the guys in Arizona that led to the offensive collapse in the Robert Saleh, tenure in New York? Nathaniel Hackett as your OC, Mike LaFleur as your head coach. You go into that situation? Are you going to Miami where they are completely rebuilding?
No.
Or are you going to the Steelers where you could get some really nice receiver weapons? Hopefully, we'll see what Omar does. You got a good, young offensive line. You've got a really good running back in Jalen Warren. We'll see who they bring in beside him. You've got an offensive-minded head coach in Mike McCarthy who's known for developing quarterback talent. And you've got a really talented defense, and it's a blue blood franchise.
I think, the only thing...
If I'm Malik, I want to go to Pittsburgh if the money's the same.
Yeah, like the only thing giving me pause if I'm, Willis here is just the money. But like even then,
But what people are expecting, what, 2 for 50, maybe 2 for 55 here, and if I'm the Steelers,
I'm doing that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I'm not doing more than 2 years. If I'm Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, here are my parameters when it comes to a Malik Willis deal. I'm not willing to do more than 2 years. I'm not willing to have guaranteed money go into a third year, especially. Yeah. I want to be able to get out of this contract next offseason if he stinks. Okay? So the way you can set this up is you could have a 2-year deal worth 50 or 55 million, and then 30 to 35 million of it is guaranteed. And you fully guarantee the first year. Okay? So you say you are our guy for this upcoming season, 2026. And if you play really well, we'll extend you next offseason. You're our guy of the future. All right? But if he stinks, then you can let him go for 5 to 10 million in dead cap, depending on how much guaranteed that you give him.
Yeah.
And then, boom, you draft a quarterback in 27. People talk about the risk of getting a guy like Malik Willis. He's one of the less risky options out there, honestly, and at least in terms of the guys that, if you watched Malik Willis play last year, guys, in that Chicago game and in that Baltimore Ravens game, he looked like a top 10 starter in the league. That's how good he was playing. And if we're looking for somebody to be that next Sam Darnold, obviously Malik Willis comes with some, risk where he could be bad this year. But he could also be a top 10 quarterback in this league with his arm talent and his arm strength and his playmaking ability and his dynamic rushing ability. And people in the locker room love this guy. Just listen to anybody from the Packers talk about Malik Willis. They love him. All right? If he's willing to sign tomorrow for 2 years, 50 million with 30 million guaranteed, I'm giving him that contract tomorrow. And I'm somebody that wants Rodgers back. I would like Rodgers back here in Pittsburgh. And if I can get Malik Willis locked up tomorrow, I'm not risking the Rodgers situation again this year.
Yeah, the whole thing is that and this is the whole argument for Willis besides Rodgers, is that Rodgers already pretty much made his decision in my eyes. Steelers have clearly showed some interest. Unless we're dead wrong here, they clearly showed interest. Put it on Rodgers to say, hey, are you playing football? And he's like, I don't know, man. You got to offer me a contract. It's doesn't answer the question, doesn't do anything. And it's all right, well, we gotta find a quarterback. Willis, the Steelers have every right to find their quarterback. If Rodgers still wants to play, he'll probably play in Minnesota. But if you're Willis, you look at Pittsburgh.
Well, I disagree with that because I think Rodgers is just open to the idea of going to Minnesota. I think he would still like to play for Pittsburgh. I think he wants to see what the Steelers are going to do at receiver, because he doesn't want to hitch his wagon to this to this bandwagon if he's not going to have the receiver help. He wants to make sure that he has the proper help in the receiver room. Then number two, I think he wants to see what the interest level is from Minnesota. And he's not allowed to talk to them right now, obviously, because it would be illegal to do so.
Yeah.
I think he wants to see and gauge their interest. I think he'll probably have a conversation with Kevin O'Connell tomorrow, and they might tell him, we're not interested. We're probably going to bring in Kyler. And if that happens, I would imagine right when Aaron gets off the phone with Kevin, he's going to call Omar and say, I'm in.
But the whole thing is Omar going to go, and this is my whole point, is that if Steelers have made it abundantly clear to Rodgers, if they want to come back, if he wants to come back and, play football, he can with them. But since he's taken this long, and I wasn't here last year for this whole conversation, since he's taken this long, and they've already, made it abundantly clear they wanted a decision, and, some reports say they wanted it before free agency, does this become a case where it's we're all in on Malik Willis now?
No. And here's why. Omar Khan made it abundantly clear there's no deadline. So that tells me, if they needed an answer by free agency, I think they would have made it abundantly clear to everybody that would listen. If we're going to bring back Aaron Rodgers, he has to decide before free agency, or we're going to get somebody else. But, if he's your number one option from the get-go, why would you close that door when there's still an opportunity and he still wants to come play for you? You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he wants to gauge the market, and he's a free agent. He's got every right to do that. But if he comes back to you after an hour and after one conversation with Kevin O'Connell, he realizes Minnesota's just not an option, and he says, you know what? I've seen that you guys have signed Romeo Doubs. I like that signing. I want to sign with you now. You really saying no to your number one quarterback option heading into the offseason?
I'm more saying
I really don't think they do that.
If Willis says yes in that first hour.
Well, yeah, like if a deal is struck with Willis, then you're not bringing back Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
but like,
I think that's more the case what I was saying.
But is Willis coming to an agreement in the first hour?
I don't think so.
I don't think
it's just hypothetical. We're playing hypothetical.
Yeah, I think that Malik is gonna,
probably take his time.
I think he's gonna, hear people out and stuff like that, and maybe after the first couple hours, there's a team that he comes to an agreement with. But like, I still think right now Aaron Rodgers is the most likely quarterback week one for the Steelers. Like, I still believe that's the most likely option. But if he's taken his sweet ass time and, a couple hours go by after the tampering period tomorrow and they have a deal done with Malik Willis, I don't think they're going to say no thank you to Willis to keep this thing going with Rodgers. Like, he's had this opportunity over the last several weeks to say yes, and he hasn't.
And that's my point.
But I think you were saying it like you just completely give up on him, and it's like
that's fair.
It's like I don't think that's the way they're approaching it. I think that they're going to keep the door open, and it's going to be more of like a first come first served kind of situation where it's like we're still interested in you, Aaron, but we've given you this opportunity where you were the only option and you chose not to take that. So now we have to do our due diligence on these other options that we like and we think could be legitimate QB1 options for us this year. And if Rodgers is still the first one to come back and say, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to sign a contract, I think they'd be thrilled to sign him for another season. But if that deal is struck with Willis first or Kyler first on Wednesday even, then I think that they will go with one of those guys.
And this is something that I will, because like obviously free agency just doesn't happen like that, like a Madden. But like if talks with Willis are going well, and Rodgers says he wants to come back, what are you doing if you're Omar Carr in that situation?
Rodgers.
So like
cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the chances of this team being a Super Bowl contender are higher with Rodgers than they would be with Willis. Like with Willis, it's still a lottery ticket of some variety. It is. Like Rodgers is the more established entity, especially inside the Steelers building. The players want him back. He's a perfect fit for the offense. Like, if you're bringing in Romeo Doubs, you're bringing him in for Aaron, even though it'd be kind of cool to see Malik and Romeo back together here in Pittsburgh. They had a great connection in Green Bay. But, like, I think, if it comes down to it and, like, A-Rod and Malik are both interested, I think they go with Aaron Rodgers. I do. I just think that, you give him one more year. You evaluate Will Howard and maybe another younger option in the building this year. Maybe they keep Mason. I don't know. But maybe they bring in a Trey Lance, like we talked about, to be the QB2. And then, you kind of spend the year with Rodgers mentoring those two younger options. You kind of evaluate how those guys are and where those guys are at in their respective careers. And if you feel like one of those guys is capable of being your long-term starter, roll with those guys into 2027. If not, Rodgers retires and you draft somebody in 2027 where there should be like 4 to 6 first-round level quarterbacks next year. At least that's the expectation. So
It'll be a pretty good quarterback class on paper next year.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I think more so, and I'm leaning more towards Willis, in my opinion, of just like, if you're able to get Willis, go ahead and get him. It's just, obviously your Super Bowl window might be lesser than if it was with Rodgers, but I'd rather have that young quarterback. Even if it blows up, like I'd rather have...
Here's why I disagree. 2027. Like, you can get your guy then. If you're trying to win now, I think Rodgers gives you the better chance to win now.
And I think Willis kind of gives you a suit of both. Because,
not as good as Rodgers.
Yeah, no, obviously, like, the win now potential is, like, all the way up with Rodgers. But Willis is probably, like, right here. Like...
Yeah,
it could get all the way up here.
Yeah, it could. It is possible. Like, I'm not saying it's not possible that this team could be really good with Malik Willis. I'm just saying that the chances of Malik Willis just coming in here and being bad, the floor is way lower with Malik Willis. than it is with a guy like Rodgers. But I still think the ceiling is pretty darn high with a guy like Rodgers, just because we haven't seen what this guy looks like with a legitimate wide receiver room
That's fair enough.
here in Pittsburgh. We just haven't seen that. And I'd rather go with a guy that still has a pretty darn high ceiling. Like, we've seen a 60-plus-year-old head coach, offensive-minded head coach, combined with a 40-plus-year-old quarterback that's the exact same age as Aaron Rodgers, win a Super Bowl in the last decade. Their names were Bruce Arians and Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, and they were able to get it done. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers at least have a chance to do something similar with Rodgers. So, listen, man, like, if Rodgers is still non-committal tomorrow and, like, you have a deal done with Malik Willis, I'm not fucking around. I'm signing Malik Willis. I'm not taking the chance on Rodgers retiring on Friday and being stuck with fucking Kirk Cousins as my veteran option at quarterback next year. I don't want that to be the case. Unless it absolutely has to be the case. So if I have a quarterback that I think is a bona fide QB1 in my sights tomorrow, I'm signing them. And really the only two options tomorrow I could see getting a deal done with the Steelers are Aaron Rodgers and Malik Willis. You can't sign Murray until Wednesday.
Can't sign Geno till Wednesday.
Can't sign Geno till Wednesday. You can trade for Derek Carr, but that'd be stupid at this juncture.
Carr is the break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah, I would agree.
If Geno, which he's projected to go to the Jets, which would be kind of funny.
That'd be hilarious.
But, like,
if I'm Geno, I'm waiting to see if the Steelers job comes open.
Like,
I'm not going to the
Jets. Are like, they understand they're the last case option.
Tua can go to the fucking Jets, dude.
I mean, that'd be so funny.
He can go die in New York.
But, like, the whole thing is that, like, if you think about it from this way, from Omar Khan, it's like, obviously you wanted Rodgers to kind of make this decision before free agency. Just because,
I mean, that was the first option, right? But obviously that's not what happened.
That's not where we are. We don't live in that world.
And maybe they do get some. Maybe Rodgers is literally waiting to the last second and saying, "Okay, I'm in," right before free agency.
Maybe he does it tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and we're like,
would anybody be surprised if Rodgers waited to the absolute last second to do that shit? So. Like, it really wouldn't surprise me.
We're talking about the guy who went on Pat McAfee last week just to say nothing.
Yeah, let's just talk about that for a second. Like, I'm a Rodgers guy. You guys know that, like, I was in favor of them waiting and pursuing him last year. I'm in favor of them re-signing him this offseason. He would be my number one quarterback option. I think he gives the Steelers the best chance to win next season. With all that said, he knows exactly what the fuck he was doing last week. He's making it seem like, all these people, want me to make a decision right now.
I'm not here for that. You
it's
can
like,
turn off the TV.
Dude, that everybody, especially Steelers fans, are waiting your decision.
Especially McAfee.
And you go on McAfee to fuck with them? Like, what are we doing here, Aaron Rodgers? Like, that was kind of a dick move by Aaron. I'm not gonna lie. Like he talks about how he doesn't want, all this attention and all that stuff. And listen, man, if he would have just not gone on McAfee, I don't give a shit. The only thing that makes me a little bit furious about what Rodgers has done is that, like, if he would have just been silent and not gone on McAfee and not made his decision yet, fine. But no, right when everybody's awaiting his decision, he goes on McAfee, and he knows that everybody on the planet wants to know what he's going to do next year, especially when it comes to Pittsburgh Steelers fans. And then he's like, all these people that are looking for a big decision today could just turn off the show. And it's like, fuck you, man. Like, I want you back. Like, I think you're an all-time great quarterback. I'd love you to be the Steelers quarterback again. But, like, that's
respectfully, fuck off.
Respectfully, that was kind of a dick move. I'm sorry. Like, maybe it's my fault for getting my hopes up there, but, like, if you're going on Pat McAfee after you haven't said anything all offseason to anybody, less than a week before free agency, you can't blame people for thinking you're going to make a decision of some kind. Or at least not be super vague and make things, more confusing than they already were.
Like, I don't know, like, I felt, like, less confident after the McAfee show just because, like, dude, what is this even about then? Like, I understand, you can make your media appearances, but as a guy who hates the media, like, you can't go over here like, they always speculating on everything in my private life. Then why are you going on McAfee? Like, if you wanted to be left alone and have people stop inquiring about your status, I mean, especially the McAfee guys, they were asking them questions all the time. Like, even AJ Hawk was like, the first question they got on him, it was like, hey, are you coming back? Like, people want to know. People on that show wanted to know, and
yes.
he did it.
Like, AJ Hawk was literally like, is it Steelers or nothing? And he was just like, let's mute him. And it's like, come on, dude.
It's a fair question.
You understand why people are tuning in, and you are purposefully not giving them what they want. It's like he takes pleasure in that. And it's like, it's just frustrating as a Steelers fan. Like, I still want him back. I still think that he's a good quarterback, and I still think that he gives this team the best chance. And, you know, I think he's a good teammate and all that different I think he's a good leader. It's just some of these kind of fuck you moments in the media just you know, it's frustrating as a Steelers fan, man. It is.
Knowing Rodgers, and maybe, like, out of, like, this is, like, a whole, like, headcanon, whatever you want to call it, but, like, clearly he has communication with his teammates, like Skoranek, who texted him during the show. Like, what if he already, like, has made his decision to friends, and he's just, like, doing this as, like, one last FU to the media or whatever? I don't know, man. Like, I don't think
the thing
that's
is,
the case.
it sounds like he wants to play.
Yeah, the thing is, that is true.
And it sounds like he loves Mike McCarthy. He loves his teammates.
Loves the staff.
He loves the organization. Loves the staff that Mike has hired. Loves DK. Loves Skoranek. Loves everything about the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he just doesn't want to make a commitment at this juncture. And that's his right. But, like, it's just the tease that is the infuriating part. If he just wanted to, you know, enjoy, you know, schmooking his wife, you know, as many times a day as he wants, fine. He's got every right to do that stuff. Stay silent. All right? But knowing that people are awaiting your decision and then going on a huge show where a lot of people are going to, you know, be expecting some answers from you and then not providing any of them and talking about fucking Love is Blind and all this different stuff, like,
or staying in shape for other reasons.
Yeah, what do we do? Yeah, staying in shape for other reasons that we won't discuss on this show. But, like, what the hell, man? And then when it comes to Quentin's question here, why did Aaron Rodgers say no? Talks have progressed. Listen, man. That's another one of the confusing things that Rodgers said, that talks haven't progressed. They haven't progressed on your side, dude. Like, the Steelers are waiting on you, okay? Like, I can pretty much guarantee you that Rodgers was made extremely clear from Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy.
Well, the thing is, he already said that in, like, the Combine interview, which, if you haven't watched it
they
already,
have said time and time again, we want Aaron Rodgers back next season. We are waiting on his decision. And I pretty much guarantee you, Ponzi, that Omar Khan told him, at any point, if you're ready to commit to this team before free agency, the job is yours. But once we get to free agency, then it becomes a little bit more of a conversation where we have to talk with other quarterbacks and stuff like this. It's not going to be just you. We're going to keep the door open. There's not a deadline. If at any point you want to come back and we haven't signed a quarterback, you can be our quarterback.
And Rodgers knows this.
And Rodgers knows this, but it's just, he goes on McAfee and he just makes a whole mess of it. And now everybody's confused about it. And it's my job to clean it up. It's my job to clean up people's confusion. $5 from Schuleberg says, how much would you be willing to pay Willis? Also, still not over the head coach hiring. Liking Big Mike, though. His staff is nice. Yeah, man. I mean, I think, you know, people were talking about, they only hired McCarthy so that they could, you know, keep the staff super small and not have to pay money for people. And it's like, they paid Patrick Graham a pretty decent chunk of change to be the DC. You know, apparently they outbid the Vikings to bring Angelico here. Apparently they offered him a pretty big pay raise to stay in Minnesota. The Steelers outbid them. And it's the biggest staff the Steelers have ever had. They've hired analytics people, and they've hired a game management specialist, which is a big thing for Mike McCarthy because he's struggled with that in the past. I like what Big Mike has done, okay? And I love the fact that he's a Yinzer. I love the fact that he bleeds black and gold. I mean, he got a giant ovation at the Penguins game the other day. Good for him. Like, just at the end of the day, when you're the Steelers head coach, it doesn't matter if you're Chris Shula or Big Mike McCarthy. It comes down to winning. It comes down to, can you win? And can you win in the postseason? And we haven't been able to. And especially after this team has gone through such a long drought of no playoff victories, if Big Mike can get this team back into Super Bowl contention and we're winning playoff games again, people are going to, warm up to the idea of Big Mike McCarthy as our head coach. I think they already are. He's such a genuine guy. He is a good football coach. He's a great quarterback developer, in my opinion. And, it's very rare that he doesn't have top 10 offenses. That's what I'll say. And we've been begging for a good offensive head coach for a long time. And by the way, you do blind taste test, Mike McCarthy's resume, John Harbaugh's resume, Sean Payton's resume, they're almost exactly the same. But Sean Payton and John Harbaugh, we're going to trade a first and third round pick to get Sean Payton. John Harbaugh, belle of the ball during the hiring cycle this year. You hired Big Mike McCarthy? This team is going to be so mediocre. It's just another Mike Tomlin. It's like, no. I think Mike McCarthy, first of all, he crushed the defensive coordinator hire, in my opinion.
Great hire.
I love Patrick Graham as a defensive mind.
John Harbaugh didn't do shit.
Yeah, John Harbaugh doesn't do shit for his organization. He needs a great staff around him. And Mike McCarthy, he brings a competitive advantage on offense. He's brought in, I think, a really good offensive play call or offensive coordinator to help him out and bring over some of the more modern concepts from the Minnesota Vikings offense in Minnesota. And then you bring in Patrick Graham, who's been one of my favorite defensive coordinators in the league for a long time now. He's made the most out of some really bad situations, and now he's inheriting one of the most talented defenses on the planet. I'm excited to see what this team's going to do this year under Big Mike McCarthy. So to answer your first question, Schuleberg, how much would I be willing to pay for Willis?
Most 25.
I might be willing to go up to 30 over 2 years if the guarantees aren't out of control. If it's
maybe first year
guaranteed. I think the very most I would do, and I might not even do this, but I'd have to look at the numbers, but maybe I would do 2 for $60 with 40 guaranteed. And
sounds like a lot, but
it is a lot. But it's not that high of a risk. It really isn't. You got 12 draft picks. You wouldn't be able to do as much in free agency as you would like with that contract.
You'd probably still be able to get a couple guys.
Yeah, you could restructure some people, and you could cut Patrick Queen. That would be a start. $13.3 million saved there. You have restructurable contracts with TJ and with DK. You can make it work with a $30 million per season contract with Willis. I would rather not. If I can get him for $25 million a season over 2 years and guarantee $30 to $35 million of that, that's probably what I would offer him. But that's probably the range that I'd be willing to meet. I wouldn't want to go above $30 million a year though. $2 from Bernard says, will Aaron Rodgers fit in Kevin O'Connell's offense? Well, that would be the interesting question, right? And that might be part of the conversations that Rodgers plans on having with KOC once we get to the legal tampering period, is what will it look like? Will I have control at the line of scrimmage, or will you want to kind of run the show, which is kind of the way Kevin O'Connell likes it. Kevin O'Connell likes under center, play action, deep shots. That's his game. And he's really good at that. And he doesn't like his quarterbacks too audible at the line of scrimmage, whereas that's pretty much entirely Rodgers' game. So Kevin O'Connell would have to be willing to take a little bit of a back seat and let Rodgers run the show a little bit in Minnesota. But they're good friends. Rodgers showed last year that with a good team around him, and wasn't even a great team. The Steelers last year were not a great team. They had a good, not great defense, and they had no receiving help, and he still led this team to a double-digit win season in a division championship and a home playoff berth. With Minnesota's situation, with an elite wide receiver situation and a great defense and an awesome head coach, maybe they could really compete. And maybe he sees Minnesota as his Tampa Bay. A lot of similarities between Minnesota's situation, Ponzi, for Rodgers and what Tampa Bay was for Tom Brady when they were the same age. So maybe he sees that as that opportunity. They would have to come to some sort of agreement in terms of how much control Rodgers would have at the line of scrimmage, but it's not impossible. I would say this: Aaron Rodgers is a better fit for the Vikings than Kyler Murray is.
Yeah, 100%.
Schematically. $5 from Michelle. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Says, is it just me or are all these other teams making moves and the Steelers are not? I will be mad if we lose out on Willis waiting for A-Rod. I'll say just because you miss out on Willis, it doesn't mean it's just because they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers. I don't want people to be confused about that. It's very possible that tomorrow, there's a number of teams that are expected to bid on Malik Willis, and maybe the Steelers just get outbid. Like maybe the Steelers are like, we'll pay him $25 million per season over 2 years, guarantee 30 to 35 million of that, right? And then the Cardinals come in and say, we'll give you $30 million a year. And he goes to Arizona. Does that mean that the Steelers weren't interested in Malik Willis and they were just waiting on Aaron Rodgers? No, it means that they were interested in Malik Willis. And by the way, this is a similar situation last year. Okay, they were interested in Sam Darnold. They put an offer in for Sam Darnold, and obviously they didn't win out. He wanted to go to Seattle, and that's the way it worked. It doesn't mean that the Steelers weren't in on him and that they didn't try to pursue him. It means that they lost on that free agency bidding. And then by the time you got to that point in free agency where Rodgers was clearly the best option, they had to wait, and they did. And Rodgers and Tomlin had their conversations, and Tomlin knew that Rodgers was eventually going to be coming in. And it took as long as it did because of the cancer situation that Rodgers and the people in his inner circle were dealing with. But, this is what happens when you don't have a starting quarterback when you get into free agency. You make bids on multiple players, and you hope that your bid is good enough. And if it's not, you miss out on that player. So I really don't think it's going to be the approach of the Steelers to be like, fuck Malik Willis, we only want Aaron Rodgers. I think that they're going to put in a bid for him tomorrow. Yeah. So we'll see if Rodgers gets something done before then, and we'll see if we're the highest bidder for Willis. $5 from Samuel Pugh says, if we treated him like how the Jets did, his tune would be different. He was begging them to return. Now it's like we're begging him. Show him we have options. I can't disagree with you more here, Sam. Rodgers literally wanted to go back to the Jets last year, and Aaron Glenn told him to fuck off. Like that was like he put that out in full detail last offseason on the McAfee show, where he ranted about how much he hates Aaron Glenn and how he treated the situation. So I don't think that was the way it worked at all last year in New York. And I don't think we're begging him. I think that this is completely a fan-led narrative where it's like, oh, we're just getting led along by Aaron Rodgers and all this different stuff. But it's like last year they weren't held hostage. They were very willing participants in the Aaron Rodgers saga, and look what happened. They got him, and he played pretty well for this team. He was the best starting quarterback for the Steelers that they've had since prime Big Ben Roethlisberger. Okay? And he delivered us a division championship for the first time in 5 years. I would say waiting for Rodgers last year worked out after you initially missed out on getting Fields and bringing in Sam Darnold and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, this year, I think they told Rodgers, hey, if you want to come back next year, great, we'll re-sign you. If not, we'll pursue somebody else in free agency. Yeah. I don't think that's begging Rodgers to come back necessarily. I just disagree with the semantics.
I think it's just Rodgers is your top option.
Yeah, Rodgers is our top option. He's the only guy that we can sign before free agency, unless we want to trade for somebody. But there's nobody that's worth trading for outside of Mac Jones, maybe. But they're asking for way too much for him.
And you're looking at Mac Jones and Anthony Richardson as the second trade target.
I don't see this as a situation where the Steelers are
Derek Carr.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see this as a situation where it's like, oh, the Steelers are begging Rodgers to come back. It's like, no, it's like we would like him back, but if he decides to not come back, retire, go to a different team, test free agency, etc., fine. We have the right to give an offer to Malik Willis tomorrow, and I think they probably will, and we'll see if that offer's good enough to bring him here to Pittsburgh. If not, then Rodgers obviously enters the chat again. We'll see. $2 from Kermit is my God says, then does Simpson become a high possibility? Well, it does depend on who the veteran option is. Because if you have, because I think there's 3 bona fide starting on, or maybe 4. I would only have 3, but maybe the Steelers have 4 bona fide QB1 options. Obviously, Rodgers is one of them. I think Malik Willis will be another. Kyler Murray, I think, will be number 3. Those are the 3 that I would have. Maybe the Steelers have Derek Carr as a 4th. Maybe. And I hope that that's not the case.
Yeah.
But Carr, was an established franchise quarterback when he was playing in the league. And maybe Mike McCarthy, as an older school guy, has a lot of respect for him. I don't know. But, if you don't get somebody that you feel is a bona fide QB1, and what I mean by a bona fide QB1 is somebody that's not someone that doesn't have to go through a competition to get the job. You could bring in a Geno Smith, a Kirk Cousins, a Joe Flacco, an Andy Dalton, a Jacoby Brissett, and a Tyrod Taylor, and they're going to have to compete for the job as the veteran option, in my opinion. They're not just going to be handed the job like Rodgers was last year, for example. They'd have to compete. And like if you get to the point where Malik Willis goes to Arizona, for example, Kyler Murray goes to Minnesota, and Rodgers retires, then all of a sudden, all the bona fide quarterback options are gone. So you have to bring in a Geno or a Kirk or a Joe Flacco if you want a veteran option in your QB room next year. And I think that the Steelers do. So you bring in one of those guys. In that scenario, I think the chances of Simpson being taken in round 1 go up exponentially because he does have a lot of good things in his, in his profile. He does have good enough arm strength. He does have some nice out-of-structure playmaking ability. He's got some nice pocket presence. His mental processing ability is as good as anybody in this class, including Fernando Mendoza's. Okay, Mendoza, very one-read quarterback right now. Doesn't mean he can't get there. I think he's a very smart individual. But in terms of demonstrated NFL progression reads on college film, Ty Simpson has way more than Fernando Mendoza right now. Not to say he's a better prospect. I have Fernando Mendoza hired. Nobody come at me in the chat. But if you're looking for somebody that you can have in an NFL QB competition on day 1 and be a pretty decent NFL starter in his first season, Ty Simpson might be the most NFL-ready QB in this class. So I would be worried about the lack of starts. I would be worried about the injury history. I would be worried about the durability, getting through a 17-game schedule in the AFC North. But, there wouldn't be a ton of great options at that point if Geno Smith is your veteran quarterback option. And I know a lot of people are like, just start Will Howard, but it's like, I think that's a giant fucking gamble, man. And I just don't want to just hand Howard the job without competition. So I do think Simpson becomes a higher probability or possibility if they don't get Rodgers, Malik Willis, or Kyler Murray. But hopefully we can land one of those guys this week. $2 from Schuleberg says, thanks for the extensive answers, gentlemen. I appreciate you, Schuleberg. That's why we're here, man. We're here to prepare you guys for the craziness that's going to be happening tomorrow.
That is it.
And of course, we'll be live. We did get a report. Josina Anderson says, I'm told 8 to 9 teams are currently expected to have preliminary interest in impending free agent cornerback James Pierre, per source. Corner is a big need in this upcoming market. So, and then there's a report from Nick Farabaugh, says the Steelers would really like to keep James Pierre. We'll see if they can do that. There's a lot of solid cornerback options on the market, but they seem focused on one of their own right now. And we did hear Omar Khan say at the Combine we'd like to bring back either James Pierre or Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah.
And honestly, Asante, if it's true that 8 to 9 teams are interested in James Pierre, that's going to drive up his price tag. And if the price tag gets high enough, it wouldn't shock me if Asante Samuel Jr. is the more affordable option. Because apparently his medical issues are for real. And there's a lot of teams last year that weren't willing to bring him in. And the Steelers might have been the only team to clear him to play. And he ended up here, and he played okay, and he didn't get hurt again. Played pretty well for somebody that hadn't played in a while. Didn't have a training camp. And he's a good player when he's healthy. It's just if you bring him in for another season, I think you can probably get him at a discount because I'm just not sure how many teams are going to want to take the medical risk with a guy like ASJ. So you might get a value for him, but he might get injured.
Yeah.
But listen, man, you got Brandon Echols on the team, who's a good corner. He is a start.
A young rookie.
He's a starting level guy. He's not a great player, but he's a good backup corner if ASJ went down. And then I expect the Steelers to probably draft a corner really early, so you could throw that rookie in there if Asante gets injured.
D'Angelo Pons.
Yeah, someone somebody like that. I mean, they did meet with him at the Combine, so I would not be surprised at all if I would prefer James Pierre just because I think he played better than Asante Samuel Jr. last year, and he doesn't have the same injury concerns. He's a big playmaker, long arms, physical, can get interceptions. I love James Pierre. He's an awesome CB2 He would be great, especially if we can get him back at a decent price point.
And the whole thing is that
sounds like we got a lot of competition to bring him back, and I think there will be a team that probably outbids us for
This
Pierre.
is the whole reason why there is free agency. Like, some people are like, why didn't the Steelers just re-sign him? If a player is going to know that he's going to, have high demand, what's the best way to make money? By going to the open market.
Yeah.
Even if he wants to come back to Pittsburgh.
And I don't think the Steelers have offered him a number
that gets him back.
Yeah, I don't think they've offered him a number where it's like, I'm going to forego looking at the market and seeing what I can get instead of this offer.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that he thinks he can get over $10 million per season.
Which, who knows?
Which I don't think the Steelers would be willing to pay if it gets that high.
Yeah.
And if there's really that many teams involved, it's certainly it's kind of pissing in my lemonade here a little bit of my hopes of bringing back James Pierre. At this point, after hearing that report, if it's true, I think we're more likely to bring back Asante Samuel Jr. on a short-term, team-friendly deal than bringing back James Pierre, unfortunately. $5 from Bernard says, so are you saying A-Rod should not go on Pat's show no more? No, I'm not saying that necessarily. I am saying it's frustrating when he wants to go on the show less than a week before free agency when everyone is waiting on his answer and he doesn't give an answer. And then he makes fun of the people watching the show for looking for an answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, like, if he wanted to retire and go on McAfee, fine by me. Like, I don't care if he goes on McAfee. It's just the precedent of, it's just the principle of, everyone's waiting on you to give an answer instead of, pondering that question, instead of actually giving an answer. You go on there and you talk about in a bunch of generalities that are confusing everybody, and you make the situation worse and more confusing than it needs to be. And it's just frustrating as a fan when that happens. I don't think Aaron's a bad guy for doing it. I'm just frustrated that he knows that everyone is waiting for an answer from him. And despite that, for somebody that says that he doesn't want any media attention or anything like that, he knows that all eyes are going to be on that show this close to free agency. And he decided to go on and talk about nothing. And it's frustrating as a fan. That's all I'm saying, Bernard. All right, is that it?
Yep.
All right, man. Well, we're going to wrap it up for the day unless we get another super chat. But I just want to thank you guys so much. This has been an awesome show. How much have we made on today's show, Ponzi?
Let's see, got 117.
Yeah, and then we added a $10 Venmo. Pretty good show, man. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty long. We still have over 330 people watching live. This is why we love going on the show, man, is that we just get to chop it up, talk Steelers football. We will get you another regular video to come out later today, some last-minute Steelers free agency rumors will be coming out later tonight. Ponzi and I will get to work on that right now. But I appreciate all of your guys' support. Did we just get another super chat?
I didn't see one.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that was just me. That's my bad. All right, well, that's going to be it for us here today. Again, we will be live again tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Just to kind of give you guys a heads up, we will also be simulcasting with our Washington Commanders channel here during our live stream. We want to cover all 32 teams live here at Chat Sports, so we have to take on another channel here. So just so you guys know, we will be covering Commanders news as well tomorrow, but we do expect a pretty exciting day for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll be talking Steelers ball. We'll be doing a lot of different stuff on the show tomorrow. So just so you guys know, we will have our Commanders audience with us in the live stream tomorrow, but it should be a lot of fun. Hopefully we get a lot of news, and we're just going to be talking NFL football all day long.
All day.
It's going to be a great day. It's going to be this is one of the best weeks and one of the best days to be a content creator here in the National Football League. So I greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. We'll see you again tomorrow, or if Rodgers decides tonight, or if the con artist strikes, we'll see you later today. But
or early tomorrow?
I don't know, man. We'll see.
I don't want to get woken up at 4 a.m., but
I mean, if Aaron Rodgers would certainly relish in that, making us wake up at 3 in the morning. $2 from Robert Locke to finish. The show says, pretty long. That's what she said.
I think we're going to end it on that note.
I think we will end it on that note right there, Mr. Robert Locke. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. We will see you guys next time. I don't know when next time exactly is going to be, but make sure you guys join us for our free agency coverage starting at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Really do appreciate your guys' support. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.